Chapter 1164. Xiao Tu had died. He had died so abruptly. Enlin and Su Xiaolan didn't even have a chance to save him before they were greeted by the sight of his dragon head being crushed. The rainbow dragon exuding extremely terrifying energy fluctuations was most likely the ancient dragon Empress dragon form, and it appeared that she was even more fearsome than her human form. Not only that, but Enlin could sense a sense of struggle from her attacks, as if she were trying to break through everything and ascend to the heavens. This was a very special type of power of the divine Tao. It couldn't even be manifested in a specific way, as if it was a spiritual power of the divine Tao. I didn't really want to use my power of the divine Tao, but you guys are really too powerful. It's just as Dark Knight Trident said, I really won't be able to kill you without this power. The ancient dragon Empress blasted a mouthful of dragon flames from her mouth to incinerate Xiao Tu's body before turning toward Enlin and Su Xiaolan. Enlin's expression was grave as he immediately released Gundam 3 and Yao Ji to test the ancient dragon Empress power. When he saw the ancient dragon Empress tear Gundam 3 in half with one claw and shatter Yao Ji's superparticle sword with the other, he immediately fled with Xiaolan. What invincible below the Tao integration stage? Bulsh *T. This ancient dragon Empress was truly invincible below the Tao integration stage. You want to run after killing my subordinates? The ancient dragon Empress rose into the air before disappearing on the spot amid a flash of light. Spatial skipping. Enlin's hair stood on end, and he immediately unleashed his Fire God mode. 3 times Qilin arm Fire God fist. In the next instant, the ancient dragon Empress appeared before him, and she made a strange hand seal with her claws. Pain of mincing flesh. A yellow ball of divine Tao light suddenly enshrouded her body. Enlin's fist crashed into the ball of light, and boundless agony suddenly welled up in his mind. His crimson golden arm was also instantly minced over 10,000 times by an extremely terrifying power. Boom! The two terrifying powers clashed, and the ancient dragon Empress was knocked back again, but her expression remained extremely calm as she stared intently at Enlin. Enlin let out a blood-curdling scream as his right arm suddenly burst into countless blossoms of blood. Then, with a bang, it exploded. My arm! Enlin clutched his empty sleeve, his teeth chattering in pain. Enlin! A hint of determination flashed through Su Xiaolan's eyes, and she slit open her wrist to inject the power of the vermilion bird and true dragon bloodlines into her dragon sparrow sword. She stepped forward, and her body instantly appeared before the ancient dragon Empress like a bolt of lightning. The holy flame and true dragon lightning from her dragon sparrow sword soared into the sky before combining to form a unique flame lightning. The dragon sparrow sword projection, which was imbued with fire and lightning, extended for several dozen kilometers, parting heaven and earth as it fell at an extremely fast speed. This sword was like the roar of a true dragon and the descent of a vermilion bird. Even at the evil dragon's encampment thousands of miles away, one could still see that terrifying sword slash that seemed like a bolt of lightning falling from the sky. Pain of the millstone. A crimson domain erupted from the ancient dragon Empress body, and it was like a millstone that could grind anything into nothingness. Su Xiaolan's earth-shattering attack, which had been enhanced by her blood sacrifice, was ground down by the power of the divine Tao over 10,000 times before it landed on the ancient dragon Empress body. Whoosh! The sword projection only managed to inflict a faint wound on the rainbow dragon's scales before its power was completely nullified. How could this be? Su Xiaolan's expression was filled with shock. Her opponent's peculiar power had completely exceeded her imagination. The space around her began to congeal as the ancient dragon Empress tail tore through space with unimaginable force. All of Su Xiaolan's avenues of retreat had been sealed, and she felt as if a gargantuan mountain with no end in sight was crashing toward her. She could only raise her sword before her and muster up all of her power to defend herself. Boom! Su Xiaolan's defenses were shattered by the terrifying power behind her, and her tail crashed heavily into the dragon's sparrow sword. Bam! Shockwaves erupted for tens of thousands of meters, and Su Xiaolan was blasted flying into the distance. How stubborn! The ancient dragon empress could sense that Su Xiaolan still had some life force remaining, and she was just about to continue onward when a dangerous aura made her falter in her footsteps. On the ground below, Unlin had a severed arm, and his entire body was enshrouded by the origin energy of the netherworld as he crushed a high-rank spirit tool right before her eyes. Sword Burial. 9 God Mountain Sword. A massive golden sword pierced through the heavens as sword intent swept forth for tens of thousands of meters. It tore through the air toward the rainbow dragon with the power of the earth imbued with the power of 9 divine mountains. The ancient dragon empress couldn't ignore this attack, and her power of the divine Tao enshrouded heaven and earth again. Pain of the cage. She slapped her claws forward, and a massive golden bell appeared before her. Dong! The massive golden sword clashed with the massive bell, and the sound of the collision erupted for over 500 kilometers. The ancient dragon empress could sense that the sword might before her was like 9 massive divine mountains crashing down upon her, and even the massive bell manifested by her divine Tao was beginning to crack. She immediately unleashed all of the power within her body to defend herself. The massive golden sword began to crumble. Finally, when the massive bell shattered, the massive golden sword also disappeared into thin air. Who would have thought that a spell technique like this could exist? The ancient dragon empress turned to Enlin with a hint of bewilderment in her eyes. Enlin was even more astonished. She was completely enscathed by his tear-stained, all-out attack. How was he supposed to fight this? A silver figure suddenly appeared behind the ancient dragon empress. Yao Ji rushed over and opened its mouth. Inky black energy imbued with boundless destructive power suddenly erupted forth. Dark matter annihilation cannon. The ancient dragon empress also opened her mouth, upon which a rainbow divine Tao breath erupted forth. It spat out rainbows like a waterfall. Enlin was then astonished by what he saw. The rainbow clashed with the dark matter annihilation cannon, and the rainbow gained the upper hand. In just a single second, the dark matter annihilation cannon was torn apart and engulfed along with Yao Ji. The rainbow breath soared into the night sky, creating a spectacular spectacle. In the end, the rainbow crashed into a certain barrier deep within the starry sky, upon which it exploded like fireworks. Heaven and earth tremored violently, and the cracks in the distance expanded even more violently. The destruction of this world was accelerating. Enlin still remembered Senior Xiao Tu's words. If the passageway to the Tai Chu continent was completely opened up, then the destruction of this world would truly be irreversible. Yao Ji fell from the sky, and its silver superalloy body had become a scorching golden color, as if it could melt at any moment. Arcs of lightning coursed through its entire body, but it was unable to execute its next move. It had clearly been completely incapacitated. I was insta-killed. Enlin sighed with emotion, but he didn't even have a chance to run away before the ancient dragon empress pounced toward him again. The ancient dragon empress flashed past and appeared right before him in the next instant. Spatial skipping was a nightmare for any return to void stage mighty figure, and it drastically reduced Enlin's chances of escaping. Boom! A claw appeared in the sky before crashing down with a resounding boom, trapping Enlin beneath it. Enlin used his evil slaying sword to keep the claw at bay, but he was unable to struggle free. Let go of Enlin! A clear cry erupted from the distance. Su Xiaolan stabbed toward the ancient dragon empress atop her dragon sparrow sword. She had already been severely wounded, but she didn't take advantage of the fact that the ancient dragon empress was busy dealing with Enlin to escape. Instead, she turned around and attacked the ancient dragon empress without any hesitation. Come at me! The ancient dragon empress' eyes flashed, and her divine Tao true intent domain appeared again. Pain of the cage. The massive golden bell appeared again, but this time, it didn't try to keep the sword technique at bay. Instead, it enshrouded Enlin and Su Xiaolan within, thereby creating an indestructible cage. An expression of despair appeared on Enlin's face upon seeing this. It was over. There was no hope of escape now. Chapter 1165. Su Xiaolan wielded her dragon sparrow sword and slashed toward the ancient dragon empress claws, which were crushing Enlin. However, the ancient dragon empress was simply too powerful. She abruptly flapped her illusionary wings toward Su Xiaolan, and a rainbow divine Dao hurricane knocked Su Xiaolan flying. There was a massive disparity between a fake invincible below Dao integration stage cultivator and a real invincible below Dao integration stage cultivator. Su Xiaolan's body crashed into the side of the massive golden bell, and she threw up a mouthful of blood. She gripped her dragon sparrow sword tightly as she looked at Enlin with renewed determination. At this moment, the ancient dragon empress expression suddenly shifted, and she turned toward a certain direction. "There's a dragon that dares to break into the formation? Die." She abruptly slammed her claws down, trying to crush Enlin to death first. However, an extremely sturdy turtle shell materialized around Enlin's body in this dire situation. Her full-force attack was only able to crack the turtle shell slightly. What the hell? The ancient dragon empress almost cursed upon seeing this. She looked into the distance, and after a moment of hesitation, her body abruptly disappeared on the spot. Compared to gnawing on this turtle shell, it was more important to take care of that invading mighty figure. After the ancient dragon empress left, Enlin and Su Xiaolan quickly gathered together. "Enlin, I didn't think that your turtle shell would be so useful." A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's pale features. She finally heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing that Enlin was safe and sound. Enlin was also very thankful for this evading turtle technique. If the green color of the turtle shell wasn't so dazzling, then it would be even more endearing. "It's all thanks to that unknown mighty figure that we were able to escape. There's no time to lose, let's break out of this golden bell cage first," Enlin said. Su Xiaolan had no objections, and the two of them began to break through the barrier. Over 500 kilometers away from the two of them, the seventh prince of the Dragon King, Ao Xianyu, was quickly flying toward the Pillar of Light. He could sense the earth-shattering battle that had erupted all around him. The evil dragon tribe had turned out in full force, and the world was on the verge of destruction. He knew very well what he had to do at this moment. It wasn't empty talk like he was going to save the world. He was going to stop the evil dragons and save himself. If the world continued to be destroyed like this, then the world would be destroyed before the summoning time arrived, and they would all die here. Ao Xianyu was a return-to-void final stage mighty figure, as well as the #1 spear god in the eastern region of the Tai Chu continent. In terms of cultivation base, he was already at the pinnacle of this world, and his combat prowess wasn't bad either. Therefore, he had the confidence to infiltrate the enemy's camp while the evil dragons were attacking and ruin the plan. Then, a 7-colored evil dragon suddenly appeared before him. "Who are you?" Ao Xianyu asked with a cautious expression as he held his silver spear. The evil dragon in front of him had a very strong aura. It was most likely one of the legendary 7 dragons on the Emperor's throne, so he had to treat it seriously. "I am the ancient dragon empress." The 7-colored evil dragon flapped its wings as it spoke in a cold voice. At the same time, a terrifying dragon might that struck Ao Xianyu with a sense of asphyxiation suddenly descended. Ao Xianyu. Didn't they say that the legendary ancient dragon empress couldn't attack? What the hell was going on here? Ao Xianyu was in a state of despair, as if he were going to steal something, only to be intercepted by a top-level demon. He forced himself to calm down. "So it's the ancient dragon empress. I just want to investigate the source of the upheaval in this world. May I know what business you have here?" "To kill you," the ancient dragon empress replied in a concise manner. Ao Xianyu's expression shifted drastically, and his battle intent soared instead. How dare you? Let's see how you're going to kill me! The muscles on his arms bulged, and the immortal tool in his hand, the thousand-change dragon slaying spear, twisted into a spiral shape. A silvery white dragon claw appeared at the tip of the spear, and an extremely mighty white dragon projection appeared behind him. Spiral dragon slaying spear. Ao Xianyu's body moved along with his spear, and he unleashed the technique that was renowned throughout the entire Tai Chu continent. His spear projection pierced directly toward the ancient dragon empress head. It had to be said that this dragon court war god was quite powerful. His speed, power, spear techniques, and divine Tao were all impeccable. However, the ancient dragon empress expression did not change in the slightest. A grief-stricken expression appeared on her face as her red power of the divine Tao enshrouded the air before instantly expanding to a radius of 5 kilometers. Pain of slaughter. The range of this technique wasn't very large, but the rich red light emanating from it struck fear into the onlookers' hearts. Ao Xianyu's blood began to churn as soon as he entered the range of the red power of the divine Tao. What's going on? His expression shifted drastically. He was astonished to discover that his power of the divine Tao was unable to keep the ancient dragon empress power of the divine Tao at bay. I'm in a hurry, so please die. A hint of grief suddenly appeared in the ancient dragon empress' crimson eyes. This grief was boundless, and there were even tears of blood flowing from her eyes. An indescribable sense of grief descended upon heaven and earth, and a rain of blood began to fall from the sky. Ao Xianyu's spear hadn't even been completely unleashed when his entire body began to tremble. Boom! Vast amounts of blood suddenly gushed forth from Ao Xianyu's eyes, nose, ears, and even his pores. In that instant, the dragon court war god was like a blooming red flower. Boundless blood blossomed in the night sky, as if it were the final fireworks of his life. The red flower of blood fell upon the earth like rain. Pitter-patter, patter-patter. Everything fell silent. Ao Xianyu's spear, which he had never let go even after being ripped to shreds by Enlin, finally slipped out of his hand and crashed heavily to the ground. The ancient dragon empress looked on with grief at the fallen dragon court war god, but her sharp claws tore through space again and tore Ao Xianyu's body in half. It's over. The ancient dragon empress wiped the tears of blood from her eyes, and her body shuddered as she threw up another mouthful of blood. I don't have any time left. I have to eliminate all of the threats as quickly as possible. She turned toward Enlin again, and her body flashed before disappearing between heaven and earth. Enlin and Su Xiaolan had already broken through the ancient dragon empress' golden bell cage. They knew that running away was useless. If they didn't stop the ancient dragon empress plan, they would perish in the destruction of this world. However, they also knew that they wouldn't be able to defeat the ancient dragon empress on their own. They had to join forces with other mighty figures, and the Almighty who had suddenly appeared and indirectly saved them was a very good partner to cooperate with. The two of them had only just flown toward the battlefield when they were greeted by the sight of Ao Xianyu being insta-killed. Enlin and Su Xiaolan couldn't help but draw a sharp intake of breath upon witnessing the ancient dragon empress' uncanny, domineering, and invincible power. This was a terrifying dragon. Without saying a word, they turned around and fled. Enlin knew that he was about as powerful as Ao Xianyu, and Su Xiaolan felt like there was no way she would be able to survive the ancient dragon empress attack, so she would only be throwing her life away. Gundam 3 and Yao Ji had already been crippled and were recovering in their storage rings. They didn't have any reinforcements, so they could only run. 10 seconds later, the ancient dragon empress appeared at the forefront of their escape route and looked at Enlin and Su Xiaolan with a cold expression. Chapter 1166. The ancient dragon empress had clearly paid a heavy price in choosing to instantly kill Ao Xianyu. At the very least, she had sustained some injuries. Her battle style was very aggressive, and she was most likely trying to use this method to make up for the evil dragon's lack of combat prowess. If the passageway between the two worlds could be opened very quickly, then they would most likely focus on defense in order to hold off their enemies for a while. However, the evil dragons had chosen to launch a ferocious counterattack with the goal of killing their enemies. They were doing this not only to intimidate their enemies, but also to weaken their enemies in advance in order to prevent their enemies from joining forces to create a force that they could not defend against. This just proved that it would take some time to open up the passageway between the two worlds. In a battle of attrition, the evil dragons would lose. Hence, they were doing everything in their power to take advantage of the fact that the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Forest's forces were split up to wipe out a portion of their enemies' forces. Unlin had figured this out, and the urge to escape and find his teammates was extremely strong. However, the tragedy was that they were caught within a few seconds. The ancient dragon empress' eyes were crimson, and her rainbow dragon scales glowed with an extremely terrifying divine light, striking Enlin with a sense of asphyxiation. She was able to insta-kill Ao Xianyu, so she could insta-kill Enlin and Su Xiaolan as well. Sure enough, tears of blood flowed from the ancient dragon empress' eyes. A crimson divine Tao light enshrouded Enlin and Su Xiaolan as boundless grief and pain transformed into a substantial power that affected heaven and earth. A rain of blood fell from the sky. Pain of slaughter. A spell technique that could insta-kill Ao Xianyu appeared again. The ancient dragon empress had unleashed a killing technique against Enlin and Su Xiaolan right from the get-go. The reason why she didn't want to engage in a prolonged battle was because she had discovered that there was a powerful force approaching from extremely far away. She had to kill these two powerful enemies before this, which was why she had unleashed this spell technique at all costs. Not only were tears of blood flowing from the ancient dragon empress' eyes, but even her rainbow body was bleeding. In the starry sky, Dark Knight Trident's body trembled uncontrollably as he looked at the ancient dragon empress, who had unleashed her pain of slaughter again. His vision gradually blurred as a sense of powerlessness and indignation welled up in his heart. Why did it become like this?" he murmured to himself. For some reason, he suddenly thought back to when he had first met the ancient dragon empress in the evil dragon tribe. At the time, the ancient dragon empress was extremely beautiful and powerful. As the leader of the dragon clan, she had never lowered her head to any living creature, because she was the noblest god in the world. Big Sister Dragon Empress, why do we have to fight other dragon tribes from time to time? 7-year-old Dark Knight Trident looked at the beautiful empress before him and mustered up his courage to ask. Perhaps it was because of this courage that his life changed. The ancient dragon empress patted Dark Knight Trident's head with a warm smile on her face. They're outsiders, and killing us will grant them the power of dragons. In order to avoid being killed, we have no choice but to resist. Can't we just hide? Ever since my parents went to fight 2 years ago, they haven't returned. I really want them to come back. Dark Knight Trident didn't know anything. He just missed his parents. The ancient dragon empress' expression darkened. She naturally knew what it meant when Dark Knight Trident said that he hadn't returned after 2 years. There's nowhere for us to hide. This world is only so big, so where can we hide? If we don't want to be bullied, then we have to become stronger. Your parents are currently fighting outside in order to protect you, so they won't be able to come back for now. As long as you work hard to become stronger, you'll be able to see your parents in the future. The proud Great Empress told a small lie to Dark Knight Trident. The Great Empress' attitude was very good, so Dark Knight Trident wasn't scared at all. Then why do they refer to us as evil dragons when we're all from the dragon tribe? Because that way they won't feel as pressured to kill us, the ancient dragon empress replied. That's outrageous. Then why don't we retort? We're not like that. Dark Knight Trident was indignant. Why should we retort? If they refer to us as evil dragons, then we'll show them how evil we are. We'll show them that we're violent and bloodthirsty, and we'll show them that we're not to be messed with. That way, they'll have to think twice before they try to bully us. So if we pretend to be vicious, they'll be scared and think that we're not to be messed with. That way, they'll be able to protect themselves to a certain extent? Dark Knight Trident asked. That's right, you're so smart. However, we can't just pretend to be vicious. We have to become extremely vicious in order to protect our family and friend. Are you interested in cultivating with me? In the face of the ancient Dragon Empress question, Dark Knight Trident was dumbstruck. After a few seconds, he replied with excitement, Really? Are you really willing to teach me? That's right. Your aptitude is very good, and you'll definitely become the hero of our tribe. The ancient Dragon Empress replied with a smile. Dark Knight Trident didn't know just how earth-shattering it was for the ancient Dragon Empress to accept him as a disciple. He was simply very happy to have such a beautiful and powerful woman to guide him in cultivation. Master, I'll definitely work hard. I'll become extremely powerful in the future. I'll protect my parents, my tribe, and I'll even become powerful enough to protect you. The ancient Dragon Empress couldn't help but burst into laughter upon hearing Dark Knight Trident's bold words. She patted his head. All right, I hope that day will come. After that, they chatted for a long time, but he had forgotten exactly what they were talking about. The only thing that remained in Dark Knight Trident's mind was her vibrant and enchanting smile. Time flew by. To this day, Dark Knight Trident really had become a powerful being of the evil dragon tribe. However, when the world was about to be destroyed and a battle that would decide the fate of the entire tribe erupted, he could only look on as the ancient Dragon Empress abandoned her Tao path to fight. That vow felt like it had only happened yesterday. Dark Knight Trident could only look on helplessly from the darkness. Master, I'm so useless, so useless. I told you I was going to become powerful enough to protect you. Dark Knight Trident murmured to himself as he clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. He looked at the bloody scenes unfolding before his eyes, and he felt as if there were invisible hands tearing at his heart. On the battlefield, blood stained the ancient Dragon Empress' rainbow dragon scales red, and tears of blood flowed relentlessly. A red divine Tao domain instantly enshrouded Enlin and Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan gripped onto Enlin's hand in that instant as she activated the turtle shell on her chest. Boom! A massive turtle projection suddenly appeared before enshrouding Enlin and Su Xiaolan. Black divine light seemed to have materialized to form a sturdy turtle shell. 99 different types of high-rank defensive spell techniques stacked upon the turtle shell. At the same time, the defensive Tao intent of a Tao integration stage super mighty figure also revolved around the turtle shell. It was as if Gu Yu had arrived in person. That's right, this was the heavenly star dark shell gifted to them by High Priest Gu Yu of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. Upon activation, it could even defend against attacks from Tao integration stage super mighty figures for 10 minutes. That's right. This was the heavenly star dark shell gifted to them by High Priest Gu Yu of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. Upon activation, it could even defend against attacks from Tao integration stage super mighty figures for 10 minutes. Chapter 1167. The heavenly star dark shell could even defend against attacks from Tao integration stage super mighty figures, so it was naturally able to defend against the ancient Dragon Empress attacks as well. The ancient Dragon Empress almost threw up a mouthful of blood upon seeing this, and she gritted her teeth. Why is it a turtle shell again? Last time, she tried to kill Enlin, but Enlin had unleashed a green turtle shell. This time, she wanted to kill both Su Xiaolan and Enlin, but Su Xiaolan had unleashed an even more powerful turtle shell. This was a turtle shell with immensely powerful defensive prowess. Were they born in the year of the dragon or the tortoise? Howl! The ancient Dragon Empress let loose an almighty roar, and the red divine Tao light around her became even more powerful. Tears of blood flowed from her eyes again, and blood seeped out of her dragon scales at an even faster rate. The despair and grief of being slaughtered transformed into substantial power that crashed relentlessly against the inky black turtle shell. Phew! Unlin, thank you for your turtle shell. Su Xiaolan's features were a little pale, and she heaved a light sigh of relief. We can't let our guard down yet. Don't forget that the Heavenly Star Dark Shell only has a 10-minute time limit. Unlin transmitted his voice in a reminder. We have to think of a way out of this situation within 10 minutes. It's 30 minutes. This turtle shell can only be activated 3 times. Su Xiaolan transmitted her voice to correct Unlin. She looked at the ancient dragon empress and thought to herself for a moment before transmitting her voice again. I have an idea. That dragon seems to be very tired from using this spell technique, and it's even bleeding. This type of spell technique should be very harmful to her, and she doesn't know about the time limit of our spell technique. Since she doesn't know the time limit of our spell, I want her to maintain this spell forever. Unlin transmitted his voice with excitement. You want to tire her to death. The two of them exchanged a silent glance. Unlin, what do we do? My turtle shell is about to collapse. A panicked expression appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she gripped her dragon sparrow sword tightly, as if she were preparing to fight to the death. Don't panic. Once the tortoise shell is broken, we'll run immediately. Can't you see how much blood it's bleeding? He must have been seriously injured. He won't be able to catch up to us. Unlin comforted. The ancient dragon empress divine Dao attacks were unable to corrode the turtle shell, and she was just about to take a rest, but she hesitated upon hearing the conversation between Unlin and Su Xiaolan. If the tortoise shell spell was about to collapse, then it would be easier for her to use the pain of slaughter instead of stopping and then using it again. This was like crying loudly. Maintaining the state of crying loudly was indeed easier than stopping and crying loudly again. Of course, the premise was that the tortoiseshell would disappear soon. Su Xiaolan had already said that their tortoiseshells were about to crumble. Once their tortoiseshells disappeared, the power of the divine Tao from the pain of slaughter would instantly explode upon them. But what if Su Xiaolan and Enlin were acting as her? The ancient dragon empress' eyes narrowed as she instantly made an assessment. No, this possibility is very small. Such a powerful defensive spell technique definitely won't last for long. Even if they were acting, this tortoise-shell defensive spell technique wouldn't last for more than a minute. The ancient dragon empress continued to shed tears of blood. Even though she had lowered the intensity of her spell technique, she still maintained the pain of slaughter. 1 minute passed. Unlin, I can't hold on any longer. Su Xiaolan clasped a hand over her chest and bit down on her lower lip, upon which blood trickled down the corner of her lip. It's all right. The ancient dragon empress is also about to collapse. We're going to be the final winner. Unlin wrapped his arm around Su Xiaolan's slender waist as he offered words of encouragement. Ancient dragon empress, why do I feel like I've been tricked? Why do I feel a little uncomfortable looking at this? This spell technique was far more powerful than she had imagined. Even though it might be a burden on the user, this was the first time she had seen such a powerful life-saving trump card. Just hold on for a little longer. They were definitely going to collapse soon. Another minute passed. The ancient dragon empress was about to collapse, her energy was starting to run out, and she was running out of blood. Could it be that she really had to be forced into a corner? The ancient dragon empress clenched her claws tightly, and her heart was filled with grief and indignation. Right at this moment, a powerful burst of power was already upon them from afar. The ancient dragon empress' worst fears had finally come true. She didn't have a chance to kill Enlin and Su Xiaolan, and another powerful enemy had intervened. Ha ha! Enlin, Su Xiaolan, are you two trapped here? I'm here to save you. A huge red and white dragon flew toward them from afar and chortled with glee. Enlin and Su Xiaolan were both excited to see who it was. Senior Long Outian, you're finally here. Enlin extended an elated greeting. Be careful of the ancient dragon empress. She's extremely powerful, so don't let her red power of the divine Tao envelop you. Su Xiaolan cautioned. Don't worry, I know what kind of opponent I'm facing. Long Aotian stared at the ancient dragon empress with a scorching light in his eyes. The most powerful being of the evil dragon tribe, I've never seen you in action before. Let me witness your power this time. The red and white dragon roared as it swiped its claws through the air, upon which the white power of the divine Tao formed a spiral tornado that surged toward the ancient dragon empress. Long Aotian's power of the divine Tao was vibration, and all things could vibrate. Vibration was power. The space in the wake of the spiral tornado also began to tremor and twist, creating extremely terrifying shock waves that pressed relentlessly against the ancient dragon empress divine Tao. Whoosh! Long Aotian's tornado easily pierced through the red divine Tao, but the ancient dragon empress managed to evade it with her extremely elusive movement techniques. What? Long Aotian's expression shifted, and he was forced to a halt. The red power of the divine Tao was very peculiar, and it didn't feel real at all. The rain of blood continued to fall. The ancient dragon empress turned toward Long Aotian, and her crimson eyes focused on him. The red power of the divine Tao extended outward and instantly enshrouded Long Aotian. Look out, Senior Long Aotian. Su Xiaolan immediately charged toward Long Aotian with Enlin in tow. The turtle shell also moved along with Su Xiaolan. That's right, she discovered that she could unleash this spell technique while moving at the same time. Although her speed would be slowed down by the turtle shell for some reason, Long Aotian was enshrouded by the red power of the divine Tao, and he could feel his blood wailing, struggling, and boiling. And all of this was because of the invincible red power of the divine Tao. His power of the divine Tao was unable to keep the ancient dragon empress power of the divine Tao at bay. Long Aotian was given a huge fright by this scene. Thankfully, Su Xiaolan was nearby, and she was prepared in advance to provide reinforcements at the most critical moment. Get in here! Su Xiaolan yelled. Long Aotian transformed into his human form without any hesitation before crashing toward the turtle shell. The illusory figure opened a mouth and swallowed the middle-aged Long Aotian. Boom! Long Aotian crashed heavily into the turtle shell. His entire body was flushed with blood, and he panted heavily as his blood churned within his body, upon which he threw up another mouthful of blood. Huff huff! That was close, I thought I was going to die. Long Aotian's heart was still pounding with fear. You really did almost die. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes. I already warned you to be careful of the ancient dragon empress domain of true intent of the divine Tao. I didn't underestimate her anymore, but who would have thought that she would be even more terrifying than I had imagined? A wry smile appeared on Long Aotian's face. No one has ever seen her in battle. Who would have thought that she would be so terrifying? Enlin stroked his chin as he looked at the dragon tribe woman shedding tears of blood. What kind of experience did she have to go through to attain such a terrifying divine Tao? Everything had returned to square one. The only difference was that Enlin and Su Xiaolan were hiding in the turtle shell. Now it was Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Aotian hiding in the turtle shell. Chapter 1168. What do we do now? We're going to die as soon as we get out. Long Aotian swallowed a high-rank spirit pill and asked as he recovered from his injuries. Don't panic. We have to stall for time and see who can last until the end. Can't you see that she's on the verge of collapse? Enlin replied. Outside the turtle shell, the ancient dragon empress red power of the divine Tao became smaller and smaller. Soon, even the turtle shell was unable to contain it, and it was slowly withdrawn into her body. The rain of blood in the sky stopped, and the ancient dragon empress blood tears also dried up. The ancient dragon empress also picked up an immortal pill and swallowed it in front of everyone upon seeing Long Aotian swallow a spirit pill. Long Aotian swallowed a spirit pill, so she swallowed an immortal pill. Everyone couldn't help but feel a lump in their throats upon seeing this. Should I say, as expected of a big boss? Even her pills were better than theirs. What do we do? The ancient dragon empress seems to have given up. Su Xiaolan was itching for action. Anlin replied in a matter-of-fact manner, "We have to take this opportunity to escape. Long Outyan, we have to take this opportunity to kill her." Everyone instantly fell silent. The two of them looked at each other. "You still want to kill her, senior? Have you forgotten how you were almost insta-killed just then?" Anlin snapped. "Running away won't solve the problem. This is a rare opportunity, so we should take her down while she's down. Otherwise, the next time we meet, when she recovers, we'll have even less of a chance," Long Outyan analyzed. "We should find more powerful teammates and team up before discussing our strategy." Anlin insisted on his decision. The two of them had conflicting opinions, so they turned to look at Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan hesitated for a moment before transmitting her voice to Anlin. "The turtle shell can still be used 2 more times. Should we give it another try? If worst comes to worst, we can just hide in the turtle shell." "Sure, but don't tell Senior Long Outyan about this. Don't let him think that he has no way out. He can only unleash greater power by cutting off all means of retreat," Anlin transmitted his voice. A moment later, Su Xiaolan looked at Anlin and pleaded, "I think Senior Long Outyan's words make more sense. Anlin, let's listen to Senior Long Outyan's suggestion." Anlin sighed. "Fine, I'll listen to you this once." The three of them made their decision. Long Outyan felt a little proud of himself. He had won the vote among the three of them. Little did he know that Anlin and Su Xiaolan had already colluded in secret. They had even arranged how he would fight with all his might and how he would salvage the situation if he failed. Then, the three of them began to secretly discuss the battle plan. The ancient dragon empress was recovering her blood essence as quickly as possible. At the same time, she was patiently waiting for her turtle shell defensive spell technique to expire. But before the spell could finish, the turtle shell suddenly cracked open. Boom! Suddenly, the space within a 5-kilometer radius began to tremble violently. An extremely powerful shockwave crashed into the ancient dragon empress body, and just the shockwaves alone pulverized the earth behind her for over 10 kilometers. Long Outyan struck first, and he unleashed his full power right from the get-go. The ancient dragon empress was knocked flying by the sudden attack, and blood began to seep from her dragon scales again, perhaps because her internal injuries hadn't healed yet. At this moment, Su Xiaolan had already descended from the sky with her dragon sparrow sword in hand. Holy flames surged into the heavens, and a gargantuan vermilion bird instantly materialized before crashing down upon the rainbow dragon with a boundless holy might. Boom! Flames exploded, sending scorching waves over 10,000 meters in all directions. The rainbow dragon roared as it plummeted to the ground. On the ground below, Anlin slit his wrist, and blood essence gushed forth as his consciousness, which rivaled that of a return to void pinnacle stage, being injected into a crimson cross in a frenzy. A series of inky black chains rose into the sky before binding the plummeting dragon. At the same time, an extremely powerful sealing power erupted from the cross. A crimson pillar of light erupted forth for over 5 kilometers, enshrouding the dragon's body and consciousness. Blood Soul Cross Seal. Anlin naturally didn't think that he would be able to truly seal this dragon tribe mighty figure. He unleashed his fire god mode and instantly appeared behind the rainbow dragon before tossing a large water ball at her. A boundless gravitational force surged forth. The ancient dragon empress roared with rage, but her body had already crashed heavily to the ground. The Blood Soul Cross and the large water ball combined to seal this terrifying dragon tribe mighty figure into the ground. Anlin didn't let his guard down, and the image of a golden eye appeared on his forehead as he unleashed his divine plunder technique again. He was going to take away the ancient dragon empress' extremely dangerous ability. Golden ripples instantly enshrouded the rainbow dragon. The ancient Dragon Empress ability began to appear in his mind. Unlin hadn't even had a chance to choose a spell technique when an emotion imbued with the struggle and insanity of an entire tribe suddenly erupted forth, threatening to explode his head. Ah! The ancient Dragon Empress power was far too peculiar, and Unlin couldn't help but wail in agony. In that instant, he really did feel like he was going to explode from this power, and he was forced to stop unleashing his divine plunder technique. Unlin's blood churned, and he threw up a mouthful of blood. The tearing sensation in his head was still spreading. He had only come into contact with the ancient Dragon Empress power, and he had almost died. I can sense that you're trying to come into contact with my power. The ancient Dragon Empress spoke in a cold voice. A chill ran down Unlin's spine, and he instinctively leaped away from the ancient Dragon Empress back to open up some distance. Can you sense my power? The ancient Dragon Empress stared at Unlin. Her dragon body became brighter and brighter, and a rainbow divine Tao light suddenly erupted forth. It was extremely dazzling and beautiful, as if it were imbued with countless possibilities. However, Unlin could sense boundless grief and rage from it. The ancient Dragon Empress' ethereal wings slowly withdrew, and the light became more and more dazzling, but her body became smaller and smaller, and her presence became more and more insignificant. Unlin's heart jolted with shock. He discovered that the Blood-Soul Cross was gradually losing its target, and even the large water ball had lost its target. "Look out!" he suddenly yelled. Bam! A violent explosion erupted. A dazzling rainbow light suddenly appeared before his eyes. A beautiful dragon tribewoman in an imperial robe with her entire body enshrouded in rainbow light reached toward Unlin's heart with her hands transformed into sharp claws. Unlin was not expecting the ancient Dragon Empress to transform into a human through some special method to evade the ancient Dragon Empress suppression. He only had a chance to turn to the side before the sharp claws tore a massive gash into his chest. Unlin! Su Xiaolan rushed to his aid and forced the ancient Dragon Empress back with a sword strike. The ancient Dragon Empress stood silently in the distance. Her right hand was stained with blood, but she didn't forget to apply the blood on her fingertip to her lips, painting her lips a bloodthirsty red. She looked at Unlin with a meaningful smile on her face. "This is the first time a living being has tried to come into contact with my power. But if you want to come into contact with my power, you'll have to experience the pain my tribe has gone through." Chapter 1169. "You've already unleashed your most powerful techniques," said your lines, "and built up your emotions, but it's not a good idea to hold back your most powerful techniques, is it?" Unlin tried to persuade her. Bolts of crimson lightning roared in the sky. These words were not just directed at Unlin. Instead, they were an accusation against heaven and earth. Unlin, this was a result of being oppressed and tortured. In this hellish world, countless living beings had accumulated countless emotions in order to put up a frenzied resistance. It was as if the ancient Dragon Empress were interrogating the heavens. Unlin continued, "As long as you stop your plan, I can help you find another way to resolve this problem." A tragic smile appeared on her face. "What have my brethren done wrong? Why do we have to endure all of this? Why do we have to be trapped here? I want to protect them, but I'm stuck at the return to void pinnacle stage. I can clearly progress to the Tao integration stage, but the laws of heaven and earth prevent me from making any further breakthroughs." "Senior, you're right, but it's still a useless statement," Su Xiaolan protested. The atmosphere was a little peculiar. "All right, let's not waste any more time." Unlin extended a hand. "Come at me. Use your most powerful technique to see if you can break through my defenses." "This is the last turtle shell spell technique." Unlin's expression darkened. "I've said so much, and your answer is a turtle shell?" The ancient Dragon Empress emotions were suddenly thrown into disarray by Unlin's words. One city after another has been destroyed, and tens of thousands of brethren have been slaughtered. Every time an enemy descends, we face the threat of extinction. We don't know how powerful or brutal the next enemy will be, so we can only struggle and resist. In the end, we've been forced to become true evil dragons." Her words were like a piece of sh*t. "I can't," Unlin replied in a straightforward manner. "Due to the special laws of the power of dragons, you dragon tribe cultivators treat this place as a hunting ground for you to improve yourselves. However, do you know that this is our home?" The rainbow-colored divine light in the world surged even more violently, as if it was about to break through this world. The ancient dragon empress immediately shook her head. "Cut the crap. The passageway is about to be opened, and our tribe has been waiting for this day for a very long time. This is our only chance and I can't miss it." "No." Unlin was very determined. Su Xiaolan moved closer to Unlin. At the same time, she asked Long Outyen to move closer to her so that he could activate his heavenly astral dark armor a second time if anything happened. The ancient dragon empress shook her head. "I'm fine. Don't worry, I can hold it in. I'll release my spell technique all at once after your defensive spell technique is over, and I'll feel better." "Sigh, to be honest, I was planning to fight the ancient dragon empress to the death. I didn't think that you would be able to use this defensive spell technique." Long Outyen sighed with emotion. This is a cursed world, the two sides were in a deadlock. "Xiaolan, activate your turtle shell first. The ancient dragon empress has been holding back her attack for so long, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to activate my defenses in time," Unlin said in a faint voice. Unlin felt a sense of security. "I can't empathize with the suffering of your tribe. I only have one simple thought in my mind, and that is to survive." "No need," the ancient dragon empress replied in a straightforward manner. "We haven't done anything, yet we've been labeled as evil dragons. You've slaughtered our brethren in a frenzy just to increase your own power. We don't want to fight, but this is our home. Where can we hide?" The ancient dragon empress' words and mysterious smile made everyone extremely wary. "It's true." The invincible turtle shell appeared again, enshrouding Unlin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Outyen within. Unlin was speechless. "Senior, you're just spouting nonsense. To you, this is a place of trials, but to us..." The dragon empress pointed up into the sky as tears of blood flowed from her eyes again. "This is the hell that has tortured us for countless years. What's wrong with us wanting to leave this place?" The ancient dragon empress looked at Unlin, and rainbow divine light suddenly engulfed heaven and earth. Everything within this space was transformed into a vibrant, picturesque scene. It's quite clear that the ancient dragon empress has to pay a heavy price to unleash this spell technique, and it can't be withdrawn. Otherwise, she would have attacked us already. Long Outyen suddenly spoke. "The passageway that you've forcefully opened up can only allow your tribe to enter, right? Seeing as that's the case, I have to stop you. Otherwise, we'll all be buried here along with this entire world." "I want to convince you with words," Unlin said. The dragon empress couldn't help but ask, "How are you going to stop me if you don't come out?" "Su Xiaolan and Unlin, how do we get out of this? It's very simple. After the ancient dragon empress unleashes her spell technique, we'll remove our turtle shells and attack her as a group," Long Outyen suggested. Long Outyen's legs trembled slightly. "There's nothing to be afraid of. If she wants to fight, then we'll fight." "Really?" The ancient dragon empress' lips twitched. "Rumble." "Okay." Su Xiaolan nodded obediently and immediately activated the heavenly star dark armor again. The ancient dragon empress smiled and didn't say anything. How shameless. The ancient dragon empress was enraged. Unlin and Su Xiaolan spoke in unison. "Senior, now is not the time to think about this. Let's think about how to break out of this situation." Unlin changed the topic. "Don't you feel uncomfortable holding it in?" Su Xiaolan said considerately. Unlin and the others didn't want to emerge from the turtle shell. As long as the turtle shell remained, the ancient dragon empress wouldn't be willing to unleash her most powerful attack. He had painstakingly used the Heavenly Star dark armor once, and his defenses were all set up, but now he was telling him that he wasn't going to attack anymore? Ancient Dragon Empress. This is the confidence I've given myself. Don't doubt just how powerful a soul formation stage mighty figure like you is. And Lin stood with his back straight, and a domineering aura began to emanate from his body. Ancient Dragon Empress. Did he have to say it so bluntly? Where was his dignity as the Empress of the evil dragon tribe? Then continue to use the turtle shell. Long Aotian replied without hesitation. Do you accept my offer? I can help you find another way, and you can swear a vow right here and now, Lin continued. The ancient dragon empress turned to look at the crumbling barrier in the distance with a distant and profound expression. The ancient dragon empress. Before I say that, can you come out of your turtle shell? The ancient dragon empress crossed her arms before her chest. You said you're going to stop me, so can you come out of your turtle shell? This was the first time she had ever seen such a shameless enemy. Not only Lin, but even Su Xiaolan felt like 10,000 mythological beasts were stampeding over her heart. Who gave you that confidence? The ancient dragon empress couldn't help but burst into laughter. Mr. Su Xiaolan's treasure sure is powerful. Even the ancient dragon empress' most powerful attack is useless against it, Long Aotian said. Long Aotian replied, I saw that the atmosphere was heavy, so I wanted to lighten the mood. But the turtle shell can only last for 10 minutes. If she doesn't unleash her attack after 10 minutes. Su Xiaolan transmitted her voice to him. Chapter 1170. Lin and Su Xiaolan were both reinvigorated by Long Aotian's bold words. This dragon tribe mighty figure really was a brave and battle-hungry powerful being. How exactly do we do this? Senior Long Aotian, you rush over and interrupt the ancient dragon empress spell technique. Then Su Xiaolan and I will find an opportunity to land the killing blow on the ancient dragon empress? Lin suggested. Long Aotian, we can actually discuss this in more detail. He was starting to regret his bold statement. As a man who had survived through mountains of corpses and seas of blood, he was naturally not afraid of battle. However, the ancient dragon empress was different. Her power was simply far too peculiar, and it was not something that normal opponents could compare to. Even if Long Aotian were to die, he wanted to die fighting to his heart's content, not dying for some unknown reason. 6 minutes passed. The three of them were still discussing their battle plan. A commotion suddenly erupted outside. In the sky above, crimson lightning roared in a frenzy, and the rainbow divine Tao light in the air had already been condensed to the extreme. The power of emotions permeated the air, and it was gradually becoming unstable. Lin and the others turned to look at the ancient dragon empress. Holy F***CK. What's wrong, ancient dragon empress? Lin immediately let loose a string of expletives upon seeing the ancient dragon empress expression. The ancient dragon empress face was flushed with rage, and the veins on her body bulged. White smoke wafted from her body, and her colorful dragon horns trembled uncontrollably. Her crimson eyes were bulging with rage, and she looked like she was about to explode. The ancient dragon empress was on the verge of breaking down upon hearing Lin's words. Your turtle shell, why hasn't it disappeared yet? It had been 6 minutes. She had waited for 6 whole minutes. What did it feel like to unleash a powerful technique for 6 whole minutes? That feeling. The ancient dragon empress felt like a weaker mighty figure would have already exploded on the spot. Su Xiaolan paused momentarily before replying with a serious expression. Our turtle shell seems to be able to last for 2 hours, right? That's not right. If she continues to attack, it might not last for an hour, Lin retorted with a serious expression. Ancient dragon empress. The space tremored violently. The ancient dragon empress' eyes were filled with despair. After all, the truth was that the sturdy tortoise shell was like a mountain pressing down on her heart that she could not see any hope. Regardless of whether she believed the words of the two of them, They had given her a certain degree of hint and blow, becoming the last straw that broke her back, finally causing her to collapse. A muffled groan suddenly rang out. Rumble! Heaven and earth changed drastically. The rainbow divine Tao was imbued with boundless energy, and it surged toward the massive turtle shell like a vast ocean, instantly reducing everything in the surrounding space to nothingness. That power seemed to be able to penetrate everything, as if it could break through everything. It was as if an entire race was slaughtering and killing each other in purgatory, or as if the dragon race wanted to destroy the world in a frenzy. The power and true intent imbued within the spell technique struck fear into Enlin and the others' hearts, even though they were separated by the turtle shell. They knew that if they were to face this attack from outside the turtle shell, they would definitely be done for. Everything within a radius of several dozen kilometers had already been annihilated by the terrifying energy. However, the tortoise shell was like a stabilizing pillar in the sea. No matter how the tortoise shell was attacked, it didn't collapse, nor did it shatter. This was how powerful the heavenly star dark shell was. The ancient dragon empress had been accumulating power for a long time, and she finally couldn't hold back any longer. The attack she unleashed was truly earth-shattering, and shock waves of energy swept outward for over 50 kilometers. Even from over 500 kilometers away, the dazzling divine Tao light could still be seen. What a beautiful technique! Dark Knight Trident murmured to himself as he looked at the dazzling rainbow technique in the distance. At the center of the 99 pillars of light, over 30,000 evil dragons all turned toward the direction in which the divine Tao light was erupting. Some of them bowed toward the distance, while others knelt down in that direction. They knew that the ancient dragon empress was putting her life on the line for their future. There were many ways for them to express their reverence and anticipation, but none of them prayed to the heavens as they hated this world to the core. The inky black hole was slowly transforming into a vast expanse of nothingness. Gradually, it began to take on a sense of space, as if that space had pierced through a certain flaw and arrived at another place. Under the relentless barrage of the 99 pillars of light and the double-headed spear, the destruction of the world became more and more severe. The cracks in the sky extended outward like a spiderweb, and they had already covered an area of over 50 kilometers, and they were only continuing to accelerate. Laws were crumbling, space was collapsing, and the power of destruction was wreaking merciless havoc over the entire world. At the location where Enlin and the others were, the divine Tao light disappeared, and the terrifying energy also gradually dissipated. The massive turtle shell was as indestructible as a mountain within the crater. Not far away, the ancient dragon empress features were deathly pale, and her aura was fluctuating as she panted heavily. She had clearly been completely drained by that attack. She immediately swallowed another immortal pill in front of everyone. Holy F***CK. She's taken another pill. I can't tolerate this. Let's kill her while she's weakened. Enlin yelled in a panicked voice. Su Xiaolan deactivated the turtle shell before charging toward the ancient dragon empress with Enlin. Long Outyin stomped through the air, and the vibrating power of the divine Tao compressed the space around him, instantly granting him an extremely terrifying propulsion force. This instantaneous burst of speed allowed Long Outyin to reach the ancient dragon empress before Enlin and the others. Consecutive space-shattering fists. White light erupted from Long Outyin's fists as the vibrating power of the divine Tao was imbued to the extreme, and he hurtled toward the ancient dragon empress at an extremely fast speed. The ancient dragon empress' expression remained calm as her hands danced through the air like butterflies, unleashing extremely intricate techniques to keep all of Long Outyin's attacks at bay. The ancient dragon empress was adept at using her peculiar power of the divine Tao, but that didn't mean that she was weak in melee combat. Ha ha! This is awesome! Long Outyin chortled with glee as he unleashed a relentless barrage of punches, each of which was powerful enough to tear through mountains, seas, and space itself. The kind of battle he yearned for was precisely this kind of hearty punch to the flesh. The ancient dragon empress palms clashed with long outyens, and each and every one of their attacks created shockwaves that pulverized the ground within a radius of over a kilometer. The two of them had exchanged over 100 blows in the blink of an eye. The crater in the ground around them was mercilessly destroyed by the two of them again. In her feeble state, the ancient dragon empress was able to withstand Long Outyen's punches, but she was at a slight disadvantage and would definitely lose in a prolonged battle. At this moment, the extremely powerful Enlin and Su Xiaolan had also rushed over, and they surrounded her from 3 different directions to cut off her path of retreat. Each of them possessed the power to battle the ancient dragon empress on their own. With the 3 of them attacking at once, their chances of victory were extremely high. This was the best opportunity for the 3 of them to kill the ancient dragon empress. Chapter 1171. Just like that, the people who were running for their lives strangely lost their sense of direction. They immediately began to flee into the distance. "Let this piece of sky be broken for me." Hedgehog Long Outyen. These were flower petals, but they were inconceivably sharp. Even Long Outyen's vibrational power was unable to diminish them by much, allowing them to pierce through Long Outyen's spatial shattering divine defense. Red divine Tao light instantly enshrouded Enlin's trio. Not only him, but even Long Outyen and Su Xiaolan were also crushed by the bare paws. A rain of roses fell from the sky again. Each and every one of the red petals was imbued with extremely dense power of the divine Tao, but they didn't harm anyone, as if they were harmless flower petals dancing in the wind. A clear and ethereal voice rang out. On the battlefield, there was a crimson Mei Gui evil dragon, a pitch-black Luan Yu evil dragon, and a Huan Meng evil dragon with gargantuan wings and an ethereal body. 3 top-rate dragon tribe powerful beings had surrounded Enlin and the others. The ancient dragon empress landed lightly on the ground in her rainbow imperial robe with a calm expression. "Don't let them get away. They can't be allowed to live." All of a sudden, the divine Tao light from the red flower petals lit up brightly. They twisted and warped to form a series of sharp spikes that pierced through space toward the 3 of them. For some reason, the world Enlin and the others were situated in suddenly became a strange and twisted world, as if they were an abstract painting with no substance or sense of space. Su Xiaolan was in a slightly better state. She had unleashed her holy flame to protect herself, which melted most of the spikes, and only an extremely small portion of them managed to puncture her snowy white skin. "Now, it's those people's turn." Dark Knight Trident's expression darkened. "They made Master pay such a heavy price. They must die." Just as they were speaking, a dazzling light suddenly erupted from the ground that the 3 of them were flying through. The scorching pillar of light crashed into the vibrating white barrier, and the temperature began to plummet. The energy within the barrier was also completely dispelled in the end. The auras of the 3 evil dragons erupted forth, and they immediately launched attacks toward Enlin and the others. Sky-shaking divine control. Long Outyen clapped his hands in the air. A destructive energy suddenly erupted from the ground in a radius of 10 miles. A blazing pillar of light that was hot enough to instantly melt metal soared into the sky, and right in the middle of it all was Enlin and the others who were running away. Our Mei Gui evil dragon, Luan Yu evil dragon, and Huan Meng evil dragon all used their life-shortening secret techniques, but the results were good. Apollo of the Western Dragon Forest died in battle, and Hades fled. There was no need to say anything. Just by exchanging glances, the 3 of them got the same answer. A shock wave that continued to vibrate and surge in the surrounding space was instantly formed. "It's not a little bad, it's very bad," Enlin said with a serious expression. This strange power engulfed Long Outyen, Enlin and Su Xiaolan. It was as if a white vibrating wall had appeared around them. There are still other return to void final stage mighty figures who haven't arrived yet. In order to maintain a safe distance, the evil dragons won't dare to pursue us too far away. All we have to do is put as much distance as possible between us and the formation as we can," Long Outyen roared. A smile appeared on the ancient dragon empress' face as she shed tears of blood. "The pain of slaughter. Have you seen my little bear? This is Huan Meng Evil Dragon's illusionary domain. It can make imaginary things into reality. For example, these ghostly beings and strange spaces are all constructed from its consciousness power of the divine Tao." Long Outyen launched a fist toward the ancient dragon empress, knocking her back for over a kilometer. However, he didn't continue to pursue her. Instead, he turned toward Enlin and Su Xiaolan. "Come and play with me, he. My king will lend you a hand." They couldn't even tell which side was ahead and which side was behind. The earth suddenly became scorching hot, and it seemed as if there were countless living beings wailing in agony. "Senior Long Outyen is right," Enlin chimed in with excitement. He was feeling the best. His body of the war god was extremely tough, and he really was able to keep all of the weakened spikes at bay. Her words were the highest command to the entire evil dragon tribe. Not only that, but the scimitar also sliced through the air and shattered the massive bear paw that was trapping the three of them. Heaven and earth reappeared. At this moment, crimson roses suddenly began to fall from the sky. 3 returned to void final stage evil dragons circled in the air, obscuring the entire sky with their massive bodies. However, before everyone had a chance to celebrate, they were greeted by the sight of a woman with tears of blood flowing from her eyes. Thus, the 3 of them were crushed beneath the bear paw. "My power of dragons is very delicious. Do you want to eat me?" Enlin stood up with a smile on his face, and the dark divine saber flew obediently back into his hand as the vast power of his consciousness swept through the surrounding space. The little dragon's cavernous mouth was already upon them, and a black scimitar suddenly appeared. The power of the dark phoenix was imbued with the power to annihilate all things, and it instantly sliced the little dragon in half. His voice had only just fallen when a gargantuan black bear paw suddenly fell from the sky. It was gargantuan, and it was as if a divine mountain were crashing down from the sky. "Why didn't you say so earlier? If I had told you that this thing could be broken through using my consciousness techniques, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. After all, I'm an all-round badass." He looked around at the bizarre heaven and earth before raising his black saber high into the air, upon which an inky black saber projection pierced through the entire heavens. Enlin used his fire god mode to clash with the bear paw, but he was completely crushed by the bear paw, as if he were facing an indestructible divine mountain. He was only good at melee combat, and his consciousness was just barely strong enough to resist the corrosion of the Huan Meng evil dragon's consciousness, so he yelled for help from a rookie return to void stage cultivator and a soul formation stage cultivator. The situation had instantly changed from Enlin and the others surrounding the ancient dragon empress to being surrounded by the evil dragons. "Which one of you has the most powerful consciousness? Hurry up and release it!" Long Outyen yelled for help. The ancient dragon empress was surrounded by 3 people. One twisted little dragon after another began to appear, and all of them had blissful smiles on their faces or peculiar expressions on their faces as they slowly flew toward the 3 of them. The little dragon suddenly opened its gargantuan mouth that was completely disproportionate to its body before pouncing toward Enlin and the others. That strange world was shattered by Enlin's saber strike. His entire body was then punctured like a porcupine. 3 extremely terrifying auras quickly approached from afar, causing Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Outyen's expressions to shift at the same time. "Rose." A gentle voice that was filled with love sounded. Another small dragon covered in rotting flesh smiled as it spoke. Its voice constantly tickled his ears, as if a ghost was blowing in his ears. "Why do you always have spikes?" A voice that was filled with love and a hint of resentment sounded. Soft murmurs began to enter his ears, like a nightmare following him. If the 3 of them were attacking the ancient dragon empress, they would have a good chance of winning. However, if 3 Return to Void final stage enemies were added to the mix, then they would have no chance of winning. Let heaven and earth be reduced to hell. A red light flashed through the black dragon's eyes. They were clearly trying to negotiate. Should they fight or retreat? Within the surveillance satellite, a smile appeared on Dark Knight Trident's face. Don't panic, let's continue onward. The power of those spikes has already been significantly weakened by my defenses, so we can keep them at bay. Long Outyen roared as he charged forward. However, that wasn't the end of the attack. An ethereal, dreamy voice sounded. The pitch-black saber radiance roared as it descended, stirring up the entire world and shattering it into pieces. Unlin, things don't look good. Su Xiaolan spoke. Chapter 1172. The red power of the divine Tao instantly descended. Never would Enlin and the others have thought that they would have to face the unfathomable power of the final boss after breaking through Huan Meng Evil Dragon's spell technique with such difficulty. Was the ancient Dragon Empress not tired from unleashing this technique? She was going to force them to their deaths. In that instant, an unimaginable power suddenly erupted from Long Outyen's body, and he instantly tore through space to appear before the ancient Dragon Empress like a bolt of lightning. If he didn't fight with everything he had, then he would never win, so he had to fight for a chance at survival. Void vibrating explosive fist. Long Outyen roared as his fist, which was imbued with the power of the vibrating divine Tao, crashed mercilessly toward the ancient Dragon Empress' face. He knew where his chance at survival was in the face of this red power of the divine Tao. Spell techniques could churn one's blood and erase one's vitality, which was very terrifying, but there was a short interval between when the spell technique was unleashed. Long Outyen was able to survive the pain of slaughter as he had entered the heavenly star Dark Shell's turtle shell during that short interval. Seeing as there was a gap in this spell technique, he could use this gap to retaliate against the ancient Dragon Empress spell technique. Heaven and earth trembled violently as his fist tore through the air. The fist hadn't even landed, but the spatial tremor had already uprooted the ground within a radius of several dozen kilometers. Long Outyen was already bleeding from all of his orifices, but his fist continued onward with unstoppable force. The ancient Dragon Empress could not ignore this punch. She crossed her arms in front of her to defend herself against Long Outyen's attack. Long Outyen's fist was unleashed in a dire situation, and the power behind it was extremely terrifying. The ancient Dragon Empress' arms were instantly bent, and the sound of bones cracking rang out. Boom! Space tremored and exploded. The ancient Dragon Empress was knocked flying for over 10 kilometers by Long Outyen's punch, and she threw up blood as she tumbled to the ground. The power of the pain of slaughter divine Tao also dissipated. Su Xiaolan held the turtle shell in her hand, and she was completely dumbstruck upon seeing this. Long Outyen is bad *SS. Enlin couldn't help but exclaim. As expected, it was no joke to be able to unleash such power in a dire situation. Long Outyen had broken the ancient Dragon Empress nightmarish spell technique on his own and blasted the ancient Dragon Empress flying. All of the evil dragons who were waiting for Enlin and the others to be slain were dumbstruck upon seeing this. The muscles all over Long Outyen's body turned red and trembled. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. His body swayed slightly, and he was about to collapse. Enlin rushed over and supported Long Outyen before stuffing the final 7th grade immortal pill into Long Outyen's mouth. Then, he ran into the distance with Long Outyen in tow. The 3 evil dragons came to their senses and gave chase. Don't let them escape. They must die for daring to harm our master. Although they had escaped death, Long Outyen was temporarily unable to fight, and they were still in grave danger. The ancient Dragon Empress stood up again, and her bent arm cracked and popped before returning to normal in the blink of an eye. She took a step forward and was about to perform a space jump when a sudden backlash caused her body to tremble and blood to seep out of the corner of her mouth. It's time to replenish my blood, A smile appeared on her face as she swallowed another immortal pill before chasing after Enlin. Enlin felt a headache coming on as he looked at the evil dragons chasing after him relentlessly. F***ck, they've already chased for over 500 kilometers, and they're still not giving up? He was now close to 1,500 kilometers away from the 99 Pillars of Light, but they're still chasing after me? Aren't they afraid of being taken advantage of by other enemies? However, unbeknownst to Enlin, the cultivation satellites in the sky could actually survey the situation within a radius of over 5,000 kilometers. Hee hee, you won't get away. Meigui Evil Dragon's aura soared explosively, and it unleashed a mystic technique that reduced its lifespan to accelerate further and further, quickly catching up to Enlin and the others. Rose Funeral. Meigui Evil Dragon opened its mouth and exhaled in a gentle yet sorrowful manner. White rose petals swept through the air, each of which was imbued with the power to freeze space and slice through all things. They were still several hundred meters away from Enlin and the others when the space around them began to congeal. This was a funeral created by the rose, and it buried everything. Everything within it began to slow down. Enlin was very familiar with this type of power. He placed Long Outyen on the brick before yelling, "Lend me your fire." Su Xiaolan immediately grasped onto Enlin's hand. Crimson inscriptions began to appear on the backs of their hands as the mutant blood phoenix's divine flames erupted. If it was difficult for one person to defend against a return to void final stage mighty figure's attack, then they should try it together. That's right, this was their combination technique, falling star technique. Regardless of whether it was the growth in the purity of his flames or the growth in Su Xiaolan's cultivation base, both of them significantly enhanced the power of these explosions. The crimson light was like a falling star, and it exploded with a resounding boom, creating a falling star technique. Boundless light and heat erupted from the explosion, instantly melting Meigui Evil Dragon's white rose into nothingness. That terrifying explosion of flames even sent the three pursuing evil dragons flying. Howl! Why are these enemies so difficult to deal with? Meigui Evil Dragon was the most severely injured, and its crimson body had been charred black. Don't get complacent. This is a powerful being that even forced the ancient Dragon Empress to step in. We have to use our full power, Luan Yu Evil Dragon said. Use our full power? Meigui Evil Dragon shot a glance at Luan Yu Evil Dragon. Can you use your blood ignition mystic technique before you say that? Among the three dragons, she was the only one who had used her blood ignition mystic technique, and this dragon was shamelessly encouraging her to use her full power? Wait a bit longer. I overexerted my blood ignition mystic technique when we were killing Apollo, and I'm still recovering from it. Luan Yu Evil Dragon explained in a flat voice as it chased after Enlin. There's actually no need for us to do anything now. Huan Meng Evil Dragon spoke in an ethereal voice as it flapped its illusionary wings and looked toward Enlin and the others. A rainbow light flashed before Enlin and the others. A gorgeous empress in an imperial robe appeared again, and tears of blood began to flow from her eyes. Enlin and Su Xiaolan almost cursed at the sight of her. Oh no, Enlin was already swearing with despair on his face. Your F***king doing it again. Do you have that much blood to shed? This was the first time he had ever seen an empress who was willing to sacrifice herself for the future of her tribe. He could reluctantly accept that his enemy could use such a freakish spell technique, but he couldn't help but curse out loud when his enemy could continue to use such a freakish spell technique. This was F***king cheating. Just as Enlin was cursing in his heart, a rain of blood began to fall upon the vast earth. The red power of the divine Tao, which represented the pain of slaughter, began to proliferate before enshrouding Enlin and the others. Feel the pain. The ancient Dragon Empress smiled as tears of blood flowed from her eyes. Her voice had only just fallen when a black-robed figure suddenly appeared before Enlin and the others. Let me feel your pain first. The black-robed figure spread open his arms with a smile. Chapter 1173. A black-robed man that no one had detected suddenly appeared before everyone. He spread open his arms, as if he really was going to experience the ancient dragon empress power. Even though he said that, he still materialized a semi-transparent black crystal barrier around himself, Lin, and the others. However, this barrier was unable to keep the ancient dragon empress power of the divine Tao at bay. The red power of the divine Tao crashed into the semi-transparent crystal barrier and passed through it as if it were nothing. A hint of pride and sorrow appeared in the ancient dragon empress' eyes upon seeing this. In this place, there was no one who could resist her power. A peculiar power fused into the man's body, and his blood began to churn and churn. Su Xiaolan's expression shifted drastically, and she was just about to unleash her heavenly star-dark shell one last time when her hand was pressed down by Lin, and she faltered momentarily. "So that's how it is. I can feel your sorrow and suffering, as well as your pain and struggle. This power is very special. It's a combination of power, experience, spirit, fortune, and even your hatred toward the curse of this world and your determination to break through everything. You are a good leader." The man's eyes focused, and the black crystal barrier he had unleashed began to glow with a divine Tao light as its internal structure began to transform. However, right before everyone's astonished eyes, the ancient dragon empress red light crashed into the black crystal barrier, only to be completely blocked, as if it had crashed into an impenetrable fortress. It was blocked. Su Xiaolan was a little incredulous. "Little Xiao is bad *SS. And Lin let loose a cry of surprise. A faint smile appeared on the man's face. "How could I allow someone to hurt Master right under my nose?" That's right, the man who had suddenly appeared was none other than Lin's disciple, Xiao Zhe. Lin made his way forward and wiped the blood from Xiao Zhe's nose and lips with a sympathetic expression. "Wipe the blood off your face before you say anything like that. Xiao Zhe, I've finally progressed to the Return to Void final stage, and I'm just flexing. Congratulations on attaining the power of the divine Tao. Xiaoze, you're so awesome," Su Xiaolan praised as she rubbed Xiaoze's head. Xiaoze was greatly praised by his mistress. He smiled in embarrassment, his face full of shyness. "So you're Xiao Zhe from the 4-9 Immortal sect. I've heard so much about you. You really are a young hero." Long Aotian also offered a string of compliments. "I'm from the primordial dragon race. I can even be your ancestor. I'm not some youth," Xiaoze retorted with a smile. "Long Aotian, why do you pretend to be a young man when you talk to them, but pretend to be an ancestor when you talk to me?" Long Aotian felt so stifled. "To think that there are Return to Void stage mighty figures who can resist my power." The ancient dragon empress was still shedding tears of blood, but a complex expression had appeared on her face. "Who would have thought that the person who understands my power the most would be my enemy?" Xiaoze looked up at the crimson rain falling from the sky. "My divine Tao pursues the path of the most powerful defense. It should be a flexible defense that can change according to the type of attack it receives. Even if the passage of time strikes, I'm going to create an eternal shield that will protect everything I want to protect. Your divine Tao is very powerful." The ancient dragon empress heaved a forlorn sigh before wiping away the tears of blood from her face with a rainbow sleeve. The proud and aloof empress of the dragon tribe lowered her head and her eyes dimmed. There was a rare pitiful expression on her face. Perhaps it was because she was too tired, or perhaps it was because of the series of events that had taken place. She was struck by a sense of helplessness. "Both of you, why are your shells so hard?" The ancient dragon empress finally voiced her frustration. The rain of blood stopped. She stopped unleashing her pain of slaughter spell technique. This type of spell technique was very lethal to those who didn't understand it. However, Xiaoze had analyzed it and found a way to counter it, so it was no longer a threat to his enemies. I have one more question. How did you manage to approach us without us noticing? The ancient dragon empress was still perplexed. Xiaozi was more than happy to answer her questions. After all, flexing was a very satisfying experience. My Tao of defense is not as simple as you think it is. After all, not being discovered by my enemies is also a form of defense, right? Xiaozi chuckled. That's right. His power of the divine Tao could change the element of his body to conceal itself. He was able to use his power of the divine Tao to alter the defensive element of his divine Tao according to the spell techniques of his enemies. This was a clear indication that his power of the divine Tao was extremely flexible and malleable. The three evil dragons and the ancient dragon empress had all of their attention focused on Enlin and the others, so how were they supposed to detect a being who was approaching them using his power of the divine Tao? Just like that, at the most critical moment, Xiaozi attained his divine Tao and made a spectacular entrance, turning the tables in their favor. Little Xiao, what do we do now? Do we fight them or keep running? Enlin felt like he should listen to his disciple's opinion. We definitely won't be able to beat them in a fight. All of them are veteran return to void final stage mighty figures, and it's already very impressive that I was able to defend myself against their attacks. Xiaozi was definitely not going to hide anything from them. Then let's get out of here. As long as we can get a certain distance away, they won't continue to pursue us, Enlin said with a calm expression. With his disciple here, his sense of security instantly multiplied, and he even spoke with more confidence. Xiaozi nodded with a smile. Master, my black crystal defense can also defend while we move, so they won't be able to harm us. Enlin and Su Xiaolan were ecstatic to hear this. That was great. This was a great sense of security. Thus, Xiaozi stood at the forefront of Enlin and the others before materializing a black crystal barrier to enshroud everyone within. He then rose into the air atop his brick and fled into the distance. Holy F***ck. We've been ignored? Luan Yu evil dragon was astonished. How dare they look down on us? A cold smile appeared on Mei Gui evil dragon's face. Let's show them what a nightmare looks like, Huan Meng evil dragon said in a cold voice. The three powerful evil dragons began to unleash powerful spells toward Xiaozi. However, the barrier materialized by Xiao Zhe's power of the divine Tao was so sturdy that the black dragon was completely flabbergasted, and it withstood wave after wave of attacks with great tenacity. How could it be so tough? Luan Yu evil dragon was astonished. Seeing as we can't break through their defenses, let's use a trapping formation first. Huan Meng evil dragon gritted its teeth. No matter how powerful a defense is, it's going to get tired after unleashing it repeatedly. Let's trap them first before unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks. We'll definitely be able to break through their defenses. Thus, all types of earth-shattering restrictive spell techniques began to appear. No matter how bad *SS Xiaozi was in the Tao of defense, there was no way he could completely evade the restrictive spell techniques unleashed by three return-to-void final stage mighty figures. After fleeing for over 250 kilometers, he was finally caught by the three evil dragons. The infernal chains bound tightly around the black crystal barrier, and a series of divine symbols imbued themselves onto the barrier. Crimson roses spread through the air, unleashing powerful restrictive power. Huan Meng evil dragon split up over 100 tentacles, which pressed down firmly onto the black crystal barrier. Crap, we've been trapped. Xiaozi was very nervous, and cold sweat was pouring down his forehead. However, Enlin and Su Xiaolan were completely unperturbed. In fact, they were even tempted to swallow a spirit pill. In a short period of time, they had already experienced this scene too many times. Now, they were as calm as a cucumber. Chapter 1174. Master, you look so confident. Have you found a way to break out of this predicament? Xiao Zhe asked with anticipation in his eyes at the sight of Enlin's calm expression. Enlin shook his head. I don't have any ideas. I'm just not concerned about life and death. Xiao Zhe. Just what had Master been through? After trapping Xiao Zhe, the three evil dragons didn't waste any more words before unleashing a barrage of attacks on Xiao Zhe's defensive crystal. Xiao Zhe focused on circulating his power of the divine Tao to defend against the evil dragon's attacks. Meanwhile, Enlin provided blood spirit pills for Xiao Zhe to consume. One of them was helping Xiao Zhe defend against the attacks, while the other was feeding him pills. Give me another high-rank blood spirit pill, my disciple. Master, I just swallowed one. That's all right. Keep a few more in your stomach as a reserve energy source. The evil dragons were infuriated upon seeing this. We're attacking you like crazy, but you're still putting on a show of a master feeding pills to his disciple? With this in mind, the evil dragon's attacks became even more ferocious. Master, we can't continue like this. They're going to break through my defenses sooner or later, Xiao Zhe spoke with an urgent expression. His defenses were indeed very powerful, but it was very taxing to unleash his power of the divine Tao. Sooner or later, his defenses would be broken through. That's all right. We'll just wait like this. Enlin smiled. Xiao Zhe was perplexed. Why? Enlin looked up into the sky in the distance. The destruction in the sky had already spread for over 500 kilometers, and it was spreading faster and faster. The world is about to be destroyed, and all 7 of the evil dragons have been mobilized. However, there are still some top-rate mighty figures from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Forest who have yet to participate. You're saying we should wait for those mighty figures to strike? Xiao Zhe asked. That's right. We're not the only ones fighting in this battle anyway. We still have those temporary allies who have to stand with us. Enlin smiled. Once they strike, that will be the best time for us to strike. Within a dark surveillance space, Dark Knight Trident was making adjustments on the battlefield. The evil dragons had secured a crushing victory on the Soul Formation stage battlefield. The evil dragons had secured a crushing victory on the battlefield below the Return to Void final stage. In the Return to Void final stage battle, 2 of the 7 Emperor's Throne final stage dragons had perished, 1 from the Western Dragon Forest had perished, and 1 from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas had perished. The ones who had escaped were all severely wounded. The situation appeared to be a stalemate, but Dark Knight Trident felt like the evil dragons were actually at a disadvantage. According to their information, there were 3 Return to Void final stage mighty figures from the Dragon Court, and all of them had already appeared. Furthermore, one of them had already been slain by the ancient Dragon Empress, so there was no need to worry about them. However, the Western Dragon Forest had sent a total of 6 Return to Void final stage mighty figures into the ancient dragon realm. Luo, the 4 hidden bombs filled Dark Knight Trident's heart with worry. He had initially wanted to send the 2 dragons who had chased away the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas to reinforce the ancient Dragon Empress, but he repressed that thought upon thinking about those 4 hidden bombs. Enlin and the others are going to die sooner or later. Tell Duba Evil Dragon and Wu Si Evil Dragon to return to the formation for now. Dark Knight Trident really wanted to take care of his master as soon as possible, but he knew that the ancient Dragon Empress and the 7 Emperor's Throne Dragons would be able to crush Enlin and the others sooner or later, so he had to think about the bigger picture. They didn't have to kill all of the mighty figures. All they had to do was focus all of their power on the 2 dragon tribes so that they wouldn't be able to destroy the passageway between the 2 worlds. Once the passageway between the 2 worlds was opened, they would be the final winners. It's almost there. Just a little bit more, Master. Dark Knight Trident clenched his fists as he looked at the woman on the projection. Bursts of divine light exploded as the terrifying power of the divine Tao swept forth, destroying everything in the surrounding area. The evil dragons unleashed one earth-shattering spell technique after another, which crashed mercilessly into the semi-transparent black crystal. The ancient Dragon Empress looked at the black crystal with an extremely calm expression. She was waiting for the black crystal to shatter so that she could unleash a lethal strike upon Enlin and the others. Just wait a little longer, they won't be able to hold on for much longer. 15 minutes later. Violent energy fluctuations suddenly erupted near the 99 formations. Dark energy engulfed heaven and earth as it enshrouded the entire space. A vast ocean surged for several hundred kilometers as massive waves rocked heaven and earth. The golden divine light was like the sun rising from the east, rising above the ocean. What's going on? The three evil dragons' expressions shifted at the same time. The dark energy fluctuations belong to Hades. Damn it! It still dares to come here. Luan Yu evil dragon roared with rage. Not only that. Meigui evil dragon's expression became extremely strained as it looked at the energy erupting from the formation core. The western dragon forest's sea god Poseidon and the goddess of war and wisdom, Athena, have also appeared. Hades' power of the divine Tao can evade the detection of the surveillance satellites. It's him who snuck in with those two mighty figures in an attempt to destroy our spell formation, Huan Meng evil dragon explained. The three evil dragons' expressions changed drastically upon seeing this. In contrast, the ancient dragon empress expression remained calm and collected. Continue to attack the enemies up ahead. Don't worry about what's going on over there. Duba evil dragon and Wu Si evil dragon will hold them off. Not only were Xiao Zhe and the others not dejected upon hearing this, they were even more motivated. Master was right. They were not fighting alone. There were many powerful teammates who stood on the same front line as them. This battle was far from over. Over 10 kilometers away from the spell formation. Ao Meng's entire body was covered in blood as he lay on a huge rock, panting heavily. His firm and dignified face was now filled with grief. My son, how could you die like this? The Dragon King had already learned of Ao Xianyu's death through the shattering of his jade badge of life. Ao Xianyu's death dealt a much more severe blow to the Dragon King than Ao Shiyu's death. Ao Xianyu was a top-rate mighty figure who had attained the power of the divine Tao. He was the Dragon Court's war god and the pillar of the Dragon Court. His death dealt a heavy blow to the foundation of the Dragon Court. Father, don't be dejected now. If we don't think of a way to break through the evil dragon's spell formation, this world is going to be shattered by them. When that time comes, we won't even be able to keep our lives. Ao Qingyu's sword was riddled with wounds, but his battle intent surged as he spoke. I understand, but what do we do? You know how powerful the evil dragons are. Not only are they extremely powerful, but they also fight with no regard for their own lives. Ao Meng was struck by a sense of lingering fear as he recalled the battle that had just taken place. Then let's fight with all our might. They burn their lifespans and we burn our lifespans. They sacrifice their bloodlines and we sacrifice our bloodlines. If we don't fight with all our might, how are we going to survive? Ao Qingyu gritted his teeth. Ao Meng looked at his son and opened his mouth, but no words came out. Well said. A rather lazy yet extremely pleasant voice rang out. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu turned toward the source of the voice, and tears welled up in their eyes. My dear daughter, big sister, you're finally here. Chapter 1175. A woman in a red dress flew through the air, and her golden eyes were a little glazed over as she yawned involuntarily. Geez, I can't even take a nap. I woke up feeling like the sky had fallen. Do you have to be so scary? The woman grumbled with an enraged expression on her face. Big sister, I'm so glad you're here. Let's go stop the evil dragon's plan and destroy the spell formation. Ao Qingyu spoke with an excited expression. Ao Xiaowu didn't reply to Ao Qingyu. Instead, she turned to Ao Meng. Father, who killed Ao Xianyu? Ao Meng faltered slightly upon hearing this, and he thought for a moment before replying. He died very suddenly. I don't think any of the 7 dragons on the Emperor's throne continent would be able to kill him in a short time, so it was most likely the Emperor of the evil dragons who killed him. Ao Xiaowu nodded before turning toward a certain direction. Ao Qingyu suddenly realized something, and his expression shifted. Big sister, our top priority now is to destroy the evil dragon's spell formation. You guys destroy the spell formation, I'll go take revenge. Ao Xiaowu cut off Ao Qingyu's words with an implacable authority. Daughter, you can let go of Ao Shuyu, but can't you focus on the bigger picture? Ao Meng also chimed in. Ao Xiaowu turned around with a smile on her face as she looked at the divine light and energy fluctuations erupting in the distance. It's not the same. I taught my 7th brother how to use a spear. He was killed, so as his half-master, I have to avenge him. Sigh, this is so troublesome, but I can't help it. The woman in a red dress stepped forward, and she appeared 5 kilometers away. Father, 5th brother, I'm going to battle now. You guys go destroy the spell formation, and I'll do my best to hold off the enemies over there. Ao Xiaowu left in an extremely stubborn manner. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu both heaved resigned sighs. No one could change Ao Xiaowu's decision. Father, are you still going to hesitate? Ao Qingyu asked. A conflicted expression appeared on Ao Meng's face for a moment before a vicious expression appeared on his face. *CK it. I refuse to believe that the evil dragons can hold off so many powerful beings. Let's go destroy the spell formation now. 2 giant dragons with powerful auras soared into the sky and flew toward the shattered sky in the distance. Where Lin and the others were, the evil dragons' attacks continued, and the area within a radius of 100 kilometers had been completely destroyed by the shock waves of the explosions. The entire continent had caved in. Master, I can't hold on much longer. Xiao Zhe gritted his teeth. The 3 evil dragons panted heavily as excitement and cruelty appeared on their faces. How much longer can he last? Lin asked with a concerned expression. I can hold on for another 2 hours at most. Xiaozi said dejectedly. The 3 evil dragons. How infuriating! He actually dared to tease them at this time? The 3 evil dragons attacked with even greater ferocity. At this moment, Dark Knight Trident's voice suddenly sounded. Urgent news. 2 return to Void final stage Dragon Tribe mighty figures have returned, and their target is the spell formation. Which one of you is going to reinforce them? I'll go. I have the most experience in dealing with wounded dragons. Luan Yu evil dragon licked its lips before rising into the air and flying toward the spell formation. However, right at this moment, a crimson spear projection that seemed to be able to puncture heaven and earth hurtled toward Luan Yu evil dragon from afar. What? Luan Yu evil dragon's expression shifted drastically, and it immediately unleashed its power of the divine Tao to protect itself. However, the spear projection was far more powerful than it had imagined. The spear projection tore through Luan Yu evil dragon's power of the divine Tao before puncturing its massive body. Howl! Luan Yu evil dragon howled with anguish. A ghastly hole appeared on its body from which blood gushed forth. A woman in a red dress wielding a silver spear with a dragon engraved on it flew through the air with a mighty aura. She shot a glance at Luan Yu evil dragon with a smile. Sorry about that, but none of you can leave. All of you have to stay here. You arrogant B***starred. Who the hell are you? Who gave you the courage to hold off all of us by yourself? Mei Gui evil dragon flared up with rage. I didn't say I was going to fight all of you. Aren't my teammates here? Ao Xiaowu turned toward Lin and the others with anticipation in her eyes. Lin and Su Xiaolan were both ecstatic to see who it was. The powerful teammates they were looking for had finally arrived. Ao Xiaowu turned toward the ancient dragon empress. You killed Ao Xianyu? The spear-wielding dragon tribe male? The ancient dragon empress admitted with a straight face. I did. Ao Xiaowu nodded. Then there's no problem. She pointed her spear at the ancient dragon empress with a cold expression. I'm going to kill you. KKK. Did I hear that right? This B***Tisich wants to kill our master? Meigui evil dragon couldn't help but burst into laughter. What an arrogant idiot. She's most likely a new mighty figure from the dragon court of the eastern seas. This is the first time she's entered the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm, and she's trying to commit suicide just because she's a little powerful? Huan Meng evil dragon was also quite amused. Not taking into account anything else, even the three of them combined were no match for the ancient dragon empress. But this dragon tribe woman wanted to kill the ancient dragon empress? The ancient dragon empress represented the pinnacle of the return to void stage. Even though she was injured, no other return to void stage mighty figure could oppose her. Ao Xiaowu pursed her lips upon hearing Huan Meng evil dragon's words. This was not the first time she had entered the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm. However, she had never fought in the past. Instead, she had been looking for a place to sleep, which was why her opponents were unfamiliar with her. That woman is not to be underestimated. Don't get complacent. Luan Yu evil dragon, who had just been stabbed by Ao Xiaowu's spear, did not underestimate her in the slightest. Ao Xiaowu turned toward Enlin and the others. I'll take care of the ancient dragon empress. You guys take care of the other evil dragons. Don't let them get away, all right? Yes. No problem. Enlin slapped his chest in a resolute manner. Enlin, can Ao Xiaowu really take care of the ancient dragon empress? Su Xiaolan was a little concerned. Just trust this beautiful aunt of yours. She's no ordinary bad *SS. She's the true stabilizing force of the dragon court of the eastern seas. Enlin reassured. He then transmitted his voice to Ao Xiaowu about the special characteristics of the ancient dragon empress power of the divine Tao. Not only was there no fear on Ao Xiaowu's face upon hearing about this peculiar ability, but her dead fish eyes had transformed into titanium alloy fish eyes as she stared at the ancient dragon empress. Let me experience the power of the most powerful being in the evil dragon tribe. Ao Xiaowu charged toward the ancient dragon empress with her spear, and her spear projection instantly tore through space. Xiao Zhe removed his defensive barrier, and Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Outyen, who had just barely recovered, charged toward the three evil dragons. A battle instantly erupted. Near the formation, 5 returned to void final stage mighty figures engaged in an intense battle, and the energy erupting from their battle was capable of toppling mountains and filling oceans. Heaven and earth dimmed as destructive energy wreaked havoc, and there was not a single living being within a radius of several hundred kilometers. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu rushed over from afar to join the battle. Duba evil dragon and Wu Si evil dragon had been forced to sacrifice their lives in order to put up a final resistance. This life-sacrificial mystic technique wouldn't last for very long, and the evil dragon's final line of defense was about to be broken. The scales of victory were slowly tipping in their favor. Enlin and the others could finally see the light of victory. Chapter 1176. Ao Xiaowu raised her spear and stabbed it toward the ancient dragon empress. A silver spear projection pierced through heaven and earth, and it was even more fearsome than the one she had used on Luan Yu evil dragon. This was the top dog of the dragon tribe. She usually liked to slack off, but when she got serious, she was a true dragon who could overturn rivers and seas. The ancient dragon empress looked at the oncoming spear, and a red power of the divine Tao began to appear. Slaughter, the dragon tribe empress didn't even get a chance to finish her sentence before Ao Xiaowu's body suddenly flashed, and she instantly retreated to over 10 kilometers away, but her spear projection didn't stop there. It continued onward for over 10 kilometers straight toward the dragon tribe empress heart. A hint of surprise appeared on the ancient dragon empress face at Ao Xiaowu's extreme agility. Pain of the cage. The power of the divine Tao materialized into a massive golden bell before her. Ao Xiaowu's spear projection struck the massive golden bell, upon which an extremely terrifying screeching sound erupted, and the massive golden bell was soon riddled with cracks. Even though this attack was extremely powerful, it was still quite a ways away from breaking through the ancient Dragon Empress defenses. The spear projection had run out. The ancient Dragon Empress turned toward Ao Xiaowu, only to discover that she had already begun to charge backward with her spear in hand. The ancient Dragon Empress' expression shifted drastically, and she hurriedly retreated. Ao Xiaowu thrust her spear forward, unleashing over 100 spear projections in an instant, sealing off all of the ancient Dragon Empress paths of retreat. Pain of fear. A black power of the divine Tao appeared on her hands. The ancient Dragon Empress hands transformed into the most resolute divine weapons as she retreated toward Ao Xiaowu's spear projections, upon which the space around them crumbled. Oi goi! You've got to be kidding me, right? Our leader is being dominated by a dragon tribe woman? Mei Gui Evil Dragon's eyes widened upon seeing this. That dragon tribe woman is very powerful. Luan Yu Evil Dragon spoke as it battled Long Outyen. It and Long Outyen were both wounded, so it was a perfect opportunity for them to fight together. The ancient Dragon Empress wasn't actually at a disadvantage. She simply hadn't decided how she was going to fight Ao Xiaowu, so she chose to defend herself. It was undoubtedly the case that Ao Xiaowu was an extremely proficient fighter. Not only could she predict her opponent's movements, but she could also quickly determine the ancient Dragon Empress' weakness, which was her spell-casting speed. All of the ancient Dragon Empress attacks were very powerful, but they required time to unleash. For normal mighty figures, this amount of time wasn't enough to prove anything. However, for Ao Xiaowu it was the key to victory. She could use speed to defeat her opponent. If a normal mighty figure tried to attack, the ancient Dragon Empress would be able to insta-kill them. However, Ao Xiaowu was different. Not only were her attacks fast, but they were also lethal. If the ancient Dragon Empress were to ignore Ao Xiaowu's spear attack and shed tears of blood, her heart would probably bleed before she could shed tears of blood. Her battle with Ao Xiaowu had fallen into a stalemate. The three evil dragons were also trapped, unable to escape. Luan Yu Evil Dragon and Long Outyen were both sick. Huan Meng Evil Dragon attempted to use its divine Tao domain to drag Xiaoze into a realistic dream realm, but the shield materialized by Xiaoze was like an omnipotent barrier that repelled even the power of the divine Tao dream realm. Huan Meng Evil Dragon's most powerful spell technique had been rendered useless, and it could only engage in a barrage of fists with Xiaoze. This was actually a huge disadvantage for Huan Meng Evil Dragon, as Xiaoze was most likely the most thick-skinned among all of these mighty figures. It had also thought about running away, but Xiaoze had a type of short-time acceleration mystic technique that would allow him to stall it. Anlin and Su Xiaolan were fighting Mei Gui Evil Dragon as a husband and wife duo, so there was even less of a chance of victory. Oh, Mei Gui, I'm going to teach you why roses are so red. Anlin unleashed his fire god mode and pummeled Mei Gui Evil Dragon as he spoke. This dragon is very beautiful. We can't let her get away with this. Su Xiaolan's sword techniques were extremely powerful, and each and every one of her sword strikes was imbued with the extremely powerful power of the true dragon and the vermilion bird, which was more than enough to break through Mei Gui Evil Dragon's scales. Mei Gui Evil Dragon was about to have a mental breakdown. These two were insane. Why couldn't they let her off just because she was beautiful? What kind of logic was this? No one answered her question. Perhaps Anlin and Su Xiaolan were just spouting trash talk after getting too high from their battle. Right at this moment, a sharp screech that tore through space erupted throughout heaven and earth. Ao Xiaowu had punctured one of the ancient Dragon Empress hands with her silver spear. Blood splattered through the air, but the ancient Dragon Empress hand gripped tightly onto the tip of the spear. At the same time, the ancient Dragon Empress' other hand, which had been imbued with the power of the divine Tao of fear, slashed down upon the silver spear like a saber. Bam! A resounding boom erupted. The spear imbued with Ao Xiaowu's power of the divine Tao was snapped in half by the ancient dragon empress hand. Ao Xiaowu hurtled back in retreat, and her eyes widened with shock as she stared at the shattered spear. Are you kidding me? That's a high-rank spirit tool. How did it snap just like that? Let's see how you're going to use your spear now, the ancient dragon empress said in a frosty voice. In the next instant, the hair on the ancient dragon empress body stood on end. A fair and nimble fist suddenly appeared in front of her. That fist struck her with an extremely horrifying feeling. The ancient dragon empress reflexively swatted a palm toward the fist, upon which she was blasted flying for over 10 kilometers. How could this be? How could you be so powerful? The ancient dragon empress' arm was numb as she stared at Ao Xiaowu in astonishment. If her hand hadn't been imbued with the power of the divine Tao, her entire arm would probably have been crippled by that fist. I didn't say that spears are my forte. I only used the spear as a tribute to my seventh brother. Ao Xiaowu's eyes were closed as she murmured in a daze, as if she were talking in her sleep. The ancient dragon empress' mouth gaped open, and she almost threw up a mouthful of blood. So all of her efforts to snap the spear had been for nothing? You're in a very strange situation right now. Your divine Tao has somehow resonated with your body. The ancient dragon empress' crimson eyes narrowed slightly as her expression became more and more grave. Ao Xiaowu's body swayed as she murmured, "My divine Tao is sleep. The deeper I sleep, the more powerful I become. When I fall into a deep sleep, I'll be invincible. That way, it'll be easier for me to fight. I don't even have to worry about myself, and I can move on my own. How about it? Am I very powerful?" The ancient dragon empress was completely astonished upon hearing this, and she stared at Ao Xiaowu with incredulity etched on her face. Just how much of a sleep-loving person did she have to be able to attain this kind of power of the divine Tao? Just as she was feeling a little dazed, Ao Xiaowu unleashed another spatial skipping technique and instantly appeared before the ancient dragon empress before unleashing a mundane punch. This was a fist technique of the utmost simplicity of the great Tao, and it didn't seem to have been unleashed by a human. Instead, it was an extremely natural fist that had been birthed from heaven and earth, and the intent realm emanating from it was also very simple: I'm going to pummel you to death. The ancient dragon empress discovered that she was unable to evade this fist, so she could only take it head-on with her own fist. She activated her power of the divine Tao to its maximal extent, thereby making her fist as hard as a divine weapon. Boom! The two fists collided. Heaven and earth fell silent for a split second. An explosive screech erupted from her bones. Immediately afterward, the ancient dragon empress flew back like a cannonball. Chapter 1177. The ancient dragon empress was blasted flying by Ao Xiaowu again. Ao Xiaowu's power had increased explosively after her sleep, and each and every one of her attacks was imbued with the power of the divine Tao of heaven and earth. Her seemingly ordinary fists were already extremely powerful. The ancient dragon empress was no longer a match for Ao Xiaowu. You're clearly asleep, so how are you still able to pinpoint my location? The ancient dragon empress was perplexed. Ao Xiaowu didn't reply. Perhaps she heard, perhaps she didn't. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing became more and more drawn out, as if she were a peaceful and harmless little girl. Slap! The sound of a footstep erupted. The ancient dragon empress' expression shifted drastically as a yellow power of the divine Tao enshrouded her body. Pain of mincing flesh. Sure enough, in the next instant, Ao Xiaowu appeared before the ancient dragon empress again before unleashing an almighty fist. Her fist passed through the power of the mincing flesh divine Tao and was instantly sliced over 1,000 times. Anlin had one of his arms severed by the ancient dragon empress with this very same attack. Ao Xiaowu's red sleeve was also shredded, revealing her fair, jade-like arm. A series of bloody gashes appeared on her arm, and her brows furrowed slightly, as if she was in agony. However, what happened next made the ancient dragon empress' eyes widen. Her pain of mincing flesh quickly lost its effect on Ao Xiaowu. This was clearly a real power, and this was clearly a realistic attack, but it was as if everything had fallen into a dream. Materialization. The ancient dragon empress turned pale with fright. Ao Xiaowu's fist fell again. The ancient dragon empress crossed her arms before her, and her body was blasted flying for several kilometers again. The terrifying power flowed through her arms and into her body, and even her internal organs were shattered by that punch. Her power has become even more terrifying. She was still able to speak earlier, so she was most likely in a semi-conscious state. Has she truly entered a state of slumber now? The ancient dragon empress' expression was extremely grave. Turning reality into nothingness is also relative. When one's power is strong enough, what should be real can't be changed. I can't waste any more time. I have to end this battle as soon as possible. The ancient dragon empress unleashed a rainbow divine light this time. Each divine light represented a type of suffering, and when the 7 divine lights combined, they could unleash a power that exceeded that of an entire tribe. Dragon Rebel. The ancient dragon empress took the initiative to pounce toward Ao Xiaowu. Her fist was imbued with Tao intent that threatened to break through the barriers between heaven and earth. Ao Xiaowu was still in a daze, and she continued to clash with the ancient dragon empress with her fists. This time, Ao Xiaowu was blasted flying by the ancient dragon empress' dragon reverse strike, and she seemed to have sustained some injuries as well. The ancient dragon empress pressed her advantage and unleashed a flurry of punches in an attempt to kill Ao Xiaowu. Ao Xiaowu continued to parry his attacks. Even though she was at a disadvantage, she was still extremely calm and collected. Her responses were precise, and her reactions were swift. She didn't panic in the slightest, and she was like a robot. The ancient dragon empress had tried fusing the power of the pain of slaughter into her fists, and if a normal return to void stage mighty figure were to take her punch, they would definitely explode on the spot. However, Ao Xiaowu was able to react extremely quickly after being struck by the punch. An alluring blush appeared on her face, but that was all. Then she continued to wave her sleeping fist. The ancient dragon empress had no choice but to resort to the simplest and most violent attack. In less than a minute, Ao Xiaowu had been punched over a dozen times, and her entire face was bruised and swollen. However, she didn't show any signs that she was going to wake up. As time passed by, she fell into a deeper and deeper sleep, and her aura became more and more ethereal and unfathomable. Her battle techniques also became more and more profound. The ancient dragon empress became more and more alarmed as she fought. She discovered that she couldn't kill Ao Xiaowu with her punches. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Ding dong, Xiaowu has entered deep sleep and has entered 100% hack mode. In that instant, Ao Xiaowu's aura completely changed. An invisible ripple proliferated through the air. The ancient dragon empress couldn't detect Ao Xiaowu's aura anymore. In its place was an extremely mysterious and natural aura that was very difficult to detect. As if it could fuse with heaven and earth, Ao Xiaowu sprang into action again. She evaded the ancient dragon empress fists, using an extremely peculiar movement technique before stabbing 2 of her fingers toward the ancient dragon empress' heart like a sword. The tip of her finger was extremely profound and unfathomable, and the 7 divine Tao lights were all sliced apart. That finger was imbued with the power of heaven and earth. The ancient dragon empress understood now. If her Tao was a Tao that defied the natural order after being oppressed by heaven and earth, then Ao Xiaowu's Tao was a Tao that conformed to heaven and earth and encompassed all things. Before Ao Xiaowu went to sleep, she left behind a will to heaven and earth. That will was a command. For example, kill the ancient dragon empress, and heaven and earth would gradually take control of her body, thereby entrusting this will to heaven and earth. If Ao Xiaowu wanted to kill her, then the entire heaven and earth wanted to kill her. The entire heaven and earth was helping Ao Xiaowu kill her. How could there be such a freakish and bizarre divine Tao? The ancient dragon Empress heart was punctured by Ao Xiaowu's fingers, and even the space behind her was punctured as well. Blood splattered through the air, and she hurtled back in retreat, but her eyes were extremely bright. The ancient dragon Empress was not fearful. Instead, a scorching excitement appeared on her face. I defy the natural order, so how can you do anything to me even if you conform to the heavenly Tao? I'll use you to verify my Tao. Her heart was quickly healing under the nourishment of the green divine Tao light. The ancient dragon Empress charged toward Ao Xiaowu again, and her aura climbed steadily as if she had attained some enlightenment. She was even more powerful than before, and she engaged in a battle with Ao Xiaowu. The battle between these two women was more terrifying than any of the battles taking place on the battlefield. This was no longer something that could be described as earth-shattering. One was conforming to the natural order, while the other was defying the natural order. Their battle caused the great Tao of heaven and earth to tremor violently, and destructive energy fluctuations threatened to completely shatter heaven and earth. What terrifying power! No one will be able to stand a chance against these two female tigers. Unlin was astonished as he looked on at the battle between two mighty figures at the Return to Void pinnacle stage. They're not female tigers, they're female dragons. They're even more terrifying when they go berserk. Su Xiaolan corrected as she hacked at Mei Gui Evil Dragon. Are you going to become like this in the future? Unlin was a little flustered, and he pummeled Mei Gui Evil Dragon a few times with a concerned expression. That'll depend on your performance. Su Xiaolan pursed her lips into a smile as she turned toward Unlin with a meaningful expression. If someone does something wrong to me, then don't blame me for transforming into a female dragon. Cold sweat began to appear on Unlin's forehead upon hearing this. Now that they had the upper hand, they were in a much better mood, and they could chat as they fought. Thus, the three evil dragons began to receive a signal again. Duba Evil Dragon and Wuxi Evil Dragon can't hold on for much longer. Luanyu Evil Dragon and I will hold them off. Huan Meng Evil Dragon, you're the fastest, so go and reinforce them. Mei Gui Evil Dragon roared. Unlin chuckled coldly. You think you can hold us off with just the two of you? However, in the next instant, Unlin discovered that he was wrong. At the same time that the three evil dragons were burning their life forces, they had also chosen to sacrifice their bloodlines. Chapter 1178. Sacrificing the power of one's bloodline was a special enhancement spell technique unique to the dragon tribe. It could allow dragons to gain extraordinary power in a short period of time. Unlin had seen this spell technique unleashed by Balian before. At the time, she had sacrificed the power of her bloodline in order to save him. Using this spell technique would result in severe repercussions. In the less severe repercussions, one's bloodline would become impure, thereby making it very difficult for one's cultivation base to progress in the future. In the more severe repercussions, one's cultivation base could even fall. Normal dragon tribe cultivators wouldn't use this method in battle as it was equivalent to committing suicide. Return to Void stage mighty figures who stood at the pinnacle of all living beings were even more reluctant to use this method. But now, three Return to Void final stage evil dragons were using it without any hesitation. My master's sword points to the same direction as our hearts. Mei Gui Evil Dragon sacrificed its bloodline, and rose petals danced in the air like rain, creating a spectacular and beautiful sight to behold, creating an extremely powerful trapping formation. She turned toward the massive Huan Meng Evil Dragon, and said, I'll leave the core formation to you. I'll be sure to do so. Huan Meng Evil Dragon flapped its wings and flew toward the formation at an extremely fast speed. Don't even think about getting away. Xiao Zhe roared as he unleashed a mystic technique toward Huan Meng Evil Dragon. At this moment, heaven and earth suddenly transformed into a hellish space. A giant flaming net condensed in the void, containing an extremely powerful suppressive force. It was like an inescapable net that cut off Xiaoza's path of pursuit, and a series of huge fireballs bombarded Xiaoza. Luan Yu Evil Dragon was taking Long Aotian's attacks head-on as it attacked Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe crashed through Luan Yu Evil Dragon's hellish space, but he was still held back for a split second in the end. After sacrificing the power of its bloodline, Huan Meng Evil Dragon's speed rose to its peak, and it took advantage of this brief window of opportunity to open up some distance between itself and Xiao Zhe. Anlin and Su Xiaolan were also held back by Mei Gui Evil Dragon with all its might, but Huan Meng Evil Dragon still managed to escape in the end. At the same time, around the 99 Pillars of Light, a violent tremor erupted. A massive hole appeared in the formation. A black ball bounced into the opening. Quickly stop Hades. Duba Evil Dragon roared. I can't. These two dragon tribe mighty figures have suddenly gone insane for some reason. Wu Si Evil Dragon spoke with difficulty. The two evil dragons were trying to hold off 5 return to void final stage mighty figures. Even if 3 of the 5 were wounded, it was still an extremely difficult task. Not long after, the Western Dragon Forest's dark god Hades broke through the formation and entered. Anlin and the others had finally taken the most critical step on the battlefield. Ha ha! There are so many evil dragon race spirits here. Evil, Shao God, Dragon of Dragon, Evil God to God, God and Dragon God. Dragon, an indescribable evil dragon God of was God to be to long to say. The dragon to evil kings to. Shao God, Shao to that. To the dragon Lian T2 of Chen, Mu family dragon. He to Chen God, Chen to know one of one black tentacle after another shot forth from the ball, piercing through the hearts of the fleeing evil dragons like sharp swords. One evil dragon after another died amid blood-curdling cries, and even their life essence was absorbed by the tentacles. String your heart and my heart together. String a clover, string a concentric circle. Hades hummed a song as he slaughtered the evil dragons that were trying to escape. Blood flowed over the ground. The cries of children and the blood-curdling cries of adults filled the entire space. Hades' casual slaughter brought terror and despair to the 30,000 evil dragons. One evil dragon after another pounced toward Hades in an attempt to buy time for their brethren, but all of them had their hearts gouged out by Hades' tentacles. Ha ha! So much power of dragons. Even though it's not very powerful, it's still extremely delicious. Hades was extremely excited. At this moment, an enraged roar sounded. Hades, don't forget what you're here for. Hurry up and destroy the core spell formation. Outside the spell formation, the Western Dragon Forest's goddess of wisdom and war Athena cautioned. Sorry, I almost forgot what I was here to do. Hades skipped toward the center of the spell formation. 99 Pillars of Light. The core should be that double-headed spear piercing through heaven and earth, right? Its body quickly squirmed as its aura climbed steadily, as if it was accumulating power. Right at this moment, a black shadow quickly approached. Don't even think about ruining our master's plan. Huan Meng Evil Dragon let loose an almighty roar, and its body plummeted from the sky toward Hades like a meteorite. Boom! Hades let loose an anguished wail as it was knocked out of the spell formation by Huan Meng Evil Dragon. Huan Meng Evil Dragon's arrival reignited hope in Duba Evil Dragon and Wu Si Evil Dragon's hearts. Hades, this is a war. Why are you slaughtering innocent civilians? Huan Meng Evil Dragon's body trembled with rage at the sight of the evil dragon carcasses strewn all over the ground. This is a war. Isn't it my freedom to treat weaklings like you? Hades' body trembled with laughter. Boom! Huan Meng Evil Dragon tore through space and pounced toward Hades again. If that's the case, then I'll send you to meet Apollo. Thus, the battle between Huan Meng Evil Dragon and Hades erupted. On the battlefield where Enlin and the others were fighting. Everyone almost exploded with rage upon witnessing the battle taking place on the spell formation using their eye technique. What the F***ck are those mighty figures from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Forest doing? They're being held back by 2 evil dragons, and now Huan Meng Evil Dragon has also joined them. Xiao Zhe couldn't help but grumble with a resentful expression. That black ball is actually the dumbest C***nt of all. It entered the spell formation, but instead of doing its job, it's slaughtering some weak evil dragons. I'm afraid it's an idiot. And Lin was also very angry. What a useless teammate. Su Xiaolan summed it up. Don't give up. The evil dragons won't be able to hold on for much longer. The buff mystic techniques also have a time limit. Once the time limit is up, they'll be able to win no matter what. Long Outian was very optimistic. All we need to do is hold off the enemies before us. As long as the battle continues, we'll be the final winner. Long Outian encouraged everyone as he battled Luan Yu Evil Dragon. The Evil Dragon tribe had fallen into a disadvantageous position. Not only were the 7 Emperor's throne dragons struggling, but even the ancient Dragon Empress was being dominated by Ao Xiaowu. This wasn't to say that the ancient Dragon Empress was inferior to Ao Xiaowu. It was just that she had been through far too many battles, and her body was riddled with wounds. Thus, she was being pummeled by a woman who was asleep. The ancient Dragon Empress swore that this was the most bizarre and dreamy battle she had ever experienced in her life. Not long after the battle began, a turn of events suddenly unfolded. A gargantuan black dragon appeared in the distance before flying toward the 99 Pillars of Light. Ha ha! Your grandpa Xiao Tu has come back to life. A dragon's roar erupted, reverberating throughout heaven and earth. The battle between the evil dragons immediately became even more dire. The ancient Dragon Empress was about to swear. How many F***king lives did this black dragon have? Chapter 1179. Xiao Tu's appearance transformed the situation drastically once again. Aside from the ancient Dragon Empress, who else could keep it at bay? The ancient Dragon Empress was already being dominated by Ao Xiaowu, so Xiao Tu was invincible. Xiao Tu quickly flew toward the center of the formation. All of the evil dragons were panicking. How were they supposed to defend themselves against such a gargantuan creature? Get into formation. 2 return to Void Initial Stage, and 1 return to Void Intermediate Stage, Evil Dragon roared. They set up a combination spell formation in an attempt to keep the giant dragon at bay. Boom! The black dragon's body was imbued with boundless power as it crashed directly toward the combination spell formation. With a loud crash and cracking sound, the black dragon broke through the joint attack formation. The 3 evil dragons attacking Xiao Tu were knocked back as blood gushed from their mouth. Xiao Tu wasn't an idiot like Hades, and he ignored the 3 retreating evil dragons as he continued toward the formation. All of the evil dragons were in despair. Only the 7 Emperor's throne dragons would be able to keep Xiao Tu at bay. However, all 7 Emperor's throne dragons were being attacked, so there was no one left to stop Xiao Tu's day. Haha. I'll be the one to end this battle. Xiao Tu chortled with glee. Crack! Bam! An earth-shattering boom suddenly erupted, sweeping through the entire heaven and earth. It was as if something had been broken, and heaven and earth were crumbling at an accelerated rate. The cracks in the sky began to spread in all directions in a frenzy. The earth tremored violently and began to crack open, revealing inky black, bottomless rifts. Oike! You're kidding, right? Xiao Tu faltered slightly as an incredulous expression appeared on his face. All the dragons who were fighting were also stunned, and they all turned their gazes in the direction of the formation. The light from the double-headed spear had already pierced through the 2 worlds. The 99 Pillars of Light shone with scintillating light, as if they were illuminating the entire world. Look, Mommy! The earth in front of us has turned white. An evil dragon child exclaimed with excitement. At the core of the formation, at the very bottom of the double-headed spear. The black circular domain of absolute nothingness had turned into a holy white, exuding alluring spatial fluctuations, as if it were a passageway to the heavens. Within the dark detection space, Dark Knight Trident's body was trembling with excitement as tears welled up in his eyes. He had released his voice to the entire world through the surveillance satellite. Attention all evil dragons, attention all evil dragons. The passageway leading to the Tai-Chu continent has been opened, and this is a passageway that is exclusive to our tribe. All evil dragons, please enter the passageway at the center of the formation as soon as possible. All brethren who are still engaged in battle, please don't get caught up in the battle. Let's retreat to the new world first. We've won this war. Dark Knight Trident's words echoed throughout the entire world. The countless evil dragons were excited. They had finally obtained the final victory. Some laughed, some cried. Some of them closed their eyes with a faint smile on their faces as they laid in a pool of blood. Some knew that they couldn't escape, so they burst into laughter and self-destructed, taking the enemy down with them. Their mission was complete. They already knew that the future of the evil dragon tribe would be even better. Lin and Su Xiaolan were dumbfounded, momentarily forgetting to fight. The ancient dragon empress pursed her lips and looked up at the shattered heavens in the distance, and a relieved smile appeared on her face as tears began to flow from the corners of her eyes. Finally succeeded. She had been waiting for this day for countless years. She had been looking forward to it for countless years. The price they had paid was very heavy, but thankfully, they had won in the end. This battle wasn't about whether or not they would be defeated by the other evil dragon tribe cultivators. Instead, it was about whether or not they could protect the formation when the passageway between the two worlds was opened. Was the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Forest going to win for sure? No, as long as the core formation wasn't destroyed when the time came, they would be the true winners. We did it. We finally did it. Meigui Evil Dragon wept tears of joy. So what if they had to sacrifice their life force? So what if they had to sacrifice their bloodlines? As long as they could open up the passageway to the new world for the evil dragon tribe, everything would be worth it. Meigui Evil Dragon didn't want to say anything else, and it began to rain down a rain of rose petals. This was a moment worth celebrating. Explosions were still erupting in the sky, and the shattered heavens had already extended to where Lin and the others were battling. The sky was beginning to collapse, and the earth was beginning to shatter. It wouldn't be long before the entire world was engulfed by chaos and nothingness. Ao Xiaowu opened her bleary eyes, and she yawned lazily. "Is everything over?" she asked in a gentle voice. "It's over." A vibrant smile appeared on the ancient dragon empress' face. Ao Xiaowu's expression faltered upon hearing this, and she looked up at the heaven and earth that was crumbling like a herd of wild horses, then at the dragon tribe great empress, who wore a relieved smile on her face, and she fell silent. "You're the only enemy that has smiled at me since I woke up," Ao Xiaowu said. "You're far too kind." The ancient dragon empress' smile remained unchanged. "Are my teammates all pigs?" A dejected expression appeared on Ao Xiaowu's face. 5 Return to Void Final Stage Evil Dragons had been held back by 2 Return to Void Final Stage Evil Dragons, and according to her analysis of the quality of her sleep, they had lasted for quite a long time, which was unacceptable to her. Oi! There was only one pig, but that pig ruined the entire plan, Lin retorted with a displeased expression. That pig was referring to Hades, who had excitedly started a massacre after breaking into the formation. Ao Xiaowu turned to Lin with a resentful expression and remained silent. "Retreat!" the ancient dragon empress roared. The 7 emperors' throne dragons began to flee toward the formation. "You're not getting away!" Long Outyin roared as he gave chase before unleashing a series of vibrating fists toward Luan Yu Evil Dragon. Luan Yu Evil Dragon was forced to retreat by Long Outyin's attack. Roar! The passageway between the two worlds has been opened, and the battle is over. Due to the forceful opening of the passageway, there's no way to reverse the collapse of this world. What's the point of continuing to fight? Luan, you evil dragon, roared. F***ck. Even if I die, I'm going to take you down with me. Long Outyen's battle intent surged. He wanted to die a quick and painless death, and dying in battle was clearly his best option. F***ck, you're a psycho. Luan, you evil dragon, let loose a torrent of abuse upon seeing Long Outyen pounce toward it. Luan, you evil dragon, was trapped, but the ancient dragon empress instantly appeared beside it. Her rainbow divine Tao fused into her arm, and she blasted Long Outyen flying for over 10 kilometers with a single punch. Long Outyen felt as if his entire body had been torn apart, and he threw up a mouthful of blood. He didn't know just how terrifying the ancient dragon empress was without facing her in battle. What are you waiting for? The ancient dragon empress roared. Luan, you evil dragon, immediately flew toward the formation upon hearing this. Ms. Ao Xiaowu, the ancient dragon empress, has already stepped in. Aren't you going to hold her off? Anlin yelled in a panicked voice. Don't bother me. Ao Xiaowu flared up with rage. If you want to fight, then do it yourself. You're going to die anyway, so what's the point of winning now? The result is going to be the same anyway. It looked like not everyone wanted to take someone down with them before they died. The woman in red lay in mid-air and looked up at the crumbling heavens with a resigned expression. Who would have thought that I, the brilliant Ao Xiaowu, would die here because of my useless teammates? I hope it doesn't hurt that much when I die in my sleep, Ao Xiaowu murmured to herself before peacefully closing her eyes. Anlin. Chapter 1180. Ao Xiaowu didn't want to fight anymore, and Anlin and Su Xiaolan couldn't do anything about it. They didn't bother Meigui Evil Dragon anymore. After all, the ancient dragon empress was here, and they didn't want to be severely wounded like Long Outyen. The ancient dragon empress and Meigui Evil Dragon began to retreat toward the passageway between the two worlds. Master, what do we do now? Xiao Zhe circled in the sky with a concerned expression. The collapse of this world was already irreversible, and no one knew how to mend the heavens. Let's go to the formation first and see what kind of passageway it is. Anlin gritted his teeth and didn't give up hope. I'll go as well. Long Outyen flew over and yelled. All right, let's set off right away. Anlin rose into the air atop his brick. At this moment, a lazy, soft voice suddenly sounded. Wait for me, let's go together. A woman in a red dress stepped through the air before sitting down gracefully on the brick. Anlin was a little surprised to see her. You're not going to continue lying around? Who doesn't want to live? I'm going to try my best as well. Ao Xiaowu was talking about trying her best, but her voice was extremely feeble and gave her no sense of security at all. However, Anlin and the others were a little inspired by her word. Aside from the ancient dragon empress, Ao Xiaowu was the most powerful person in this world. Her attitude gave everyone a glimmer of hope amid their despair. Thus, Anlin, Su Xiaolan, Xiao Zhe, Long Outyen, and Ao Xiaowu followed closely behind the ancient dragon empress and the other evil dragon mighty figures toward the passageway. The chaotic winds produced by the collapse of this world were powerful enough to kill a return to void stage mighty figure. The power of this wind was extremely fearsome, and even Anlin and the others had to deal with it with extreme caution. Thus, the entire journey was filled with trepidation. Within the formation, extremely powerful spatial ripples emanated from the circular halo of light. One evil dragon after another leaped into the void and rushed toward their new world. Outside of the battle, the emotions of Athena, Poseidon, Hades, Ao Meng, and Ao Qingyu had all fallen to rock bottom. Not only them, but all the other return to void stage mighty figures and soul formation stage powerful beings were also extremely dejected, and some of them were even on the brink of mental breakdown. Some of them were still fighting in a frenzy, venting the resentment in their hearts. Some were already looking at the destroyed world, and some were racking their brains to think of a way to break out of this. Huan Meng Evil Dragon, Duba Evil Dragon, and Wu Si Evil Dragon fought with their lives on the line, and the weaker evil dragons that were unable to participate in the battle all entered the spatial passageway within the formation. Soon after, the evil dragons retreated. All of a sudden, the area outside the formation became extremely chaotic. Not only was this a battleground for top-rate mighty figures, but there were also many other Return to Void stage and Soul Formation stage mighty figures gathered here. Let's charge in. Maybe we can also enter the spatial passageway. A dragon race supreme being roared. Kill. Charge in as one. Many dragon race experts roared. According to the speed at which this world was being destroyed, they would not be able to wait until they were summoned back to their original world. The arrival of the light of summoning was determined by the spatial gate between the two worlds. There was no such thing as an early arrival. Entering the evil dragon's spatial passageway seemed to be the most promising course of action. Rumble. Another massive hole was blasted into the formation by Dark King Hades. Ao Qingyu also unleashed a dazzling sword strike, which tore a massive fissure into the formation and almost sliced it in half. The spatial passageway had already been opened, so it didn't really matter whether the formation was destroyed or not. At most, it could only defend against the destructive energy of the world, as well as defend against enemy attack. One top-rate mighty figure after another began to unleash furious attacks upon the formation, and the formation began to crumble. Most of the 99 massive mountains from which pillars of light had erupted were also razed to the ground by spell technique. However, all of this was to no avail. Forcibly opening a spatial passageway between the two worlds would result in the destruction of this world, and no one would be able to stop that unless that person could mend the heavens. Nuwa could mend the heavens, but there weren't even any Dao integration stage super mighty figures here, so where were they going to find Nuwa? On this chaotic battlefield, there were still some who managed to escape into the spatial passageway. This passageway is most likely exclusive to the dragon tribe, not the evil dragons. We'll definitely be able to get in. A soul formation stage powerful being consoled himself before rushing into the spatial passageway. However, his body had only just disappeared into the white halo on the ground when he let loose a blood-curdling wail. Ah! Save me! The soul formation stage powerful being's body was dissected, as if he had jumped into a high-frequency meat grinder. His body was pulverized into tiny particles, and his entire body disappeared in the end. All of the soul formation stage powerful beings behind him were scared ***** upon seeing this. This wasn't a passageway to escape. This was clearly a pit of fire. No wonder there weren't any evil dragon powerful beings guarding this spatial passageway. Who would stop an enemy from jumping into a pit of fire to die? All of the soul formation stage powerful beings refrained from jumping into the spatial passageway. However, the Return to Void stage mighty figures were still itching for action. What if that dead soul formation stage powerful being wasn't powerful enough? If they were powerful enough to keep the spatial passageway at bay, would they be able to enter it? A Western Dragon Forest Return to Void stage mighty figure was hesitating above the spatial passageway. However, he finally roared at the sight of the ancient dragon empress in the distance. I'm willing to die for the future of the Western Dragon Forest. He was going to die either way, so he might as well give it his all. Otherwise, once the ancient dragon empress arrived, he might not even have a chance to enter the spatial passageway. Thus, the Return to Void stage mighty figure unleashed spatial power to enshroud his entire body before leaping into the white spatial passageway right before the awestruck eyes of all of the dragon tribe cultivators. And then, the dragon tribe mighty figure's blood-curdling wail shook heaven and earth. The peculiar power of the two realms pulverized the dragon tribe mighty figure's spatial power and reduced his body to the tiniest of particles, the dragon tribe mighty figure struggled to escape, but this spatial passageway seemed to possess a peculiar suction force toward other dragon tribe cultivators, as if it were an engulfing swamp. Thus, the dragon tribe mighty figure died amid a blood-curdling wail right before the eyes of all of the dragon tribe powerful beings. This scene was far too terrifying, and all of the dragon tribe cultivators had given up on the idea of jumping into the spatial passageway to escape from this world. Many of the dragon tribe powerful beings had already fallen into despair, and they didn't know what to do next. Some of them were still fighting, venting their despair and rage upon the evil dragons. I have to see such a tragic scene as soon as I get here. What a headache! And Lin gripped onto Su Xiaolan's warm and soft hand with an extremely tense expression on his face. He couldn't think of a way out of this situation. Ha ha! Mr. Lin, I didn't think that you would be able to survive for so long after encountering such a terrifying B***tch. That's impressive. Xiao Tu flew toward him with an excited expression. Senior, you're about to die and you're still so happy? Lin's expression darkened. I don't really care. Xiao Tu waved his paws. I have many resurrection trump cards. Who knows which sacrificial altar I'll be resurrected on if I die now? Lin, everyone was suddenly struck by the urge to beat Xiao Tu to death. Chapter 1181. Everyone was about to perish along with the world, but there was someone jumping around and happily telling everyone that he could revive. Was this a pleasant surprise? How infuriating! How envious! Lin quickly calmed himself down before asking, Senior Xiao Tu, didn't you break through the barrier to come here? Can't you go back the way you came? Everyone's eyes lit up upon hearing this. If I can continue to travel with Xiao Tu, then I can find a way back to the Tai Chu continent. At the very least, I have to survive first. However, Xiao Tu shook his head with a forlorn expression. If I could escape from this world, why would I be wasting my time here with you? The laws in the sky have collapsed, and the power of chaos has wreaked havoc. It's filled with energy that can destroy the entire world, and I'll be crushed if I approach it. Ao Xiaowu looked up into the sky. They are like a ball of flames that will soon engulf this entire world, and we will perish along with this world. At this moment, the ancient dragon empress had already charged into the formation. She was like a monarch descending from the heavens as she unleashed the power of the rainbow divine Tao, knocking back Athena, Hades, Poseidon, Ao Meng, and Ao Qingyu. All those who attack the evil dragons must die. The ancient dragon empress voice reverberated throughout heaven and earth, and all of the living beings battling the evil dragons faltered upon hearing this voice, clearly intimidated by the terrifying dragon might imbued within it. TSK, how domineering! She ended the battle with just a single sentence. Lin clicked his tongue in wonder upon seeing this. This actually has something to do with the fact that the ancient dragon empress just knocked back 5 top-tier mighty figures. After all, no one wants to be bashed to death by the ancient dragon empress, Su Xiaolan said. Boom boom boom. Her voice had only just trailed off when the formation was engulfed by a series of powerful spell techniques. F***ck it. I'm going to die either way. Let's attack together and kill that B***tch. Ha ha ha. It's better to die at the hands of the ancient dragon empress than to be crushed to death by the heavens. Charge. We'll take one down with us if we can. The battle only paused for a few seconds before erupting again. There were still many fearless powerful beings who chose to charge toward the ancient dragon empress. Su Xiaolan's mouth gaped open with incredulity. There really was someone who wasn't afraid of the ancient dragon empress. A smile appeared on Lin's face. See? The proud dragon tribe cultivators are not going to just stand there and wait for their death. The world is about to be destroyed. Everyone feels like they're going to die. What can't they do? At a time like this, anything can be understood. Ao Xiaowu pointed at a certain place with a smile. Look over there. Lin and the others turned their attention to a certain place. There was a green eastern dragon lying on the back of a western salamander, one in front and one behind, one in front and one behind. The western salamander's face turned red as it let out a painful cry. The battle between the two sides was intense. Everyone, you've lost your morals! Xiao Tu roared with rage. Xiao Lan, why did you cover my eyes? And Lin said angrily. Su Xiaolan's face was as red as an apple. Don't look at that image, it's too dirty. Didn't they say that Eastern dragons and Western dragons are mortal enemies? Is this a relationship that transcends race and class? Xiao Zhe's eyes were filled with envy. Ao Xiaowu shook her head. Perhaps he just wants to have some fun. Everyone, as the leader of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, was it really appropriate for her to say something so blatant? Just as everyone was immersed in their own thoughts, Long Outyen made his way out of the formation. Senior Long Outyen, where are you going? And Lin asked. I'm going to fight. That way, I'll die a more satisfying death. The muscles on Long Outyen's upper body, which were already covered with bloody scars, bulged once again, and a powerful force spread out in all directions like ripples. Bam! A sonic boom erupted. Long Outyen landed on the battlefield and began to attack all of the evil dragon mighty figures. And Lin didn't stop Long Outyen, nor was he able to. One evil dragon mighty figure after another entered the spatial passageway. However, there were many powerful beings from the Western Dragon Forest and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas gathered outside the spell formation. The disparity in the number of powerful beings between the two powers placed a lot of pressure on the retreating evil dragon mighty figures. The ancient Dragon Empress stood in midair, facing off against an entire army on her own. Of the 5 surviving emperors throned 7 dragons, 3 of them had already been severely wounded and could no longer fight, so they had also entered the barrier of light. Hence, there were only 3 evil dragon mighty figures who could fight, and all of them were stationed near the central spell formation. All of the other evil dragon mighty figures had entered the barrier one by one. Ancient Dragon Empress, Luan Yu Evil Dragon, Mei Gui Evil Dragon. They're all familiar faces. And Lin sighed with emotion. The ancient Dragon Empress has been through so many battles, but her combat prowess is still as astonishing as ever. She was able to defend against the attacks of 3 returned to void final stage mighty figures from the Western Dragon Forest on her own. A yearning expression appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Su Xiaolan was completely won over by a female dragon tribe empress whose aura soared into the clouds. She's sacrificed far more than you can imagine. Ao Xiaowu's eyes reflected the figure of the dragon tribe empress as she spoke in a cold voice. My good daughter, big sister. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu began to fly toward Ao Xiaowu. The dragons of the Western Dragon Forest were more short-tempered and only wanted to fight in the face of the apocalypse. The Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas were a lot more cowardly. They saw that fighting was pointless, so they wanted to do something else. Xiaowu, why are you with those B****stards like An Lin? Ao Meng's eyes widened. He was immediately enraged by the sight of An Lin. They're just temporary allies. They're more reliable than you two. Ao Xiaowu shot a glance at Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu as if she were looking at 2 useless teammates. Even An Lin and the others could sense her intense resentment, let alone Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu. The most powerful boss had been held off by Ao Xiaowu, and their teammates had failed to win in a 5-on-2 battle. Anyone would be resentful about this. Haha, let's not talk about that for now. Have you thought of any way to survive? Ao Meng changed the subject. Ao Xiaowu shook her head. No. At the rate at which this world is being destroyed, we're all going to die here in an hour at most. Xiao Zhe looked up at the starry sky as a defensive crystal materialized in his hand, which was constantly changing. We're like puny creatures trapped in a cage by the power of destruction. When destruction engulfs the entire heavens and the earth falls apart, the laws of nature will vanish, and all things will perish into nothingness. He observed the destruction of this world, and his understanding of the Tao of defense deepened. Unfortunately, all of this had to come to an end. His defenses still couldn't withstand the destruction of this world. I can die without regrets. Xiao Zhe heaved a forlorn sigh. He hadn't even observed the divine Tao for a single day, and he was already going to die. However, he couldn't be as carefree as those cultivators. He still wanted to live. Boom, boom, boom. Another earth-shattering explosion erupted. The triumphant laughter of the Western Dragon Forest mighty figures rang out. Lin and the others turned toward the formation to discover a woman lying on the ground with blood all over her body. The ancient Dragon Empress had been defeated by 3 Western Dragon Forest mighty figures. Chapter 1182. The ancient Dragon Empress tumbled to the ground in an extremely disheveled state, and she threw up another mouthful of blood. Ha ha! So that's all the Empress of the evil dragons can do. A blue lizard dragon spread its wings, upon which a gargantuan wave swept toward the ancient Dragon Empress. The ancient Dragon Empress wiped the blood from the corners of her lips and didn't say anything as she waved a hand toward the massive wave. The white power of the divine Tao fused into the air, instantly dispelling the massive wave, and even the Western Dragon Forest's sea god Poseidon was knocked flying. Ao Xiaowu shook her head and heaved a faint sigh upon seeing this. The ancient Dragon Empress is just starting to get exhausted from all the battles she's been through. Otherwise, these clowns wouldn't even have a chance to wreak havoc here. Ao Xiaowu was quite respectful toward this empress, who was able to maintain a smile even after she had woken up from her slumber. Perhaps this was the bond between 2 powerful women. You're about to die because of her, and you're still speaking up for her? And Lin was astonished. I'm telling the truth, Ao Xiaowu replied in a slow voice. And Lin had no response to this. The thought process of the most powerful being in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas was not something that normal people could understand. And Lin seemed to be starting to understand why Ao Xiaowu was still not hostile toward him despite his conflict with the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. On the final battlefield, Luan Yu Evil Dragon and Long Outyin were engaged in an intense battle, and their clashes created a series of massive craters in the ground, transforming the battlefield into a terrifying realm of death. Mei Gui Evil Dragon combined into 1,000 bodies to keep the other powerful beings at bay. The ancient Dragon Empress could only face the ferocious attacks of the 3 Western Dragon Forest returned to void final stage mighty figures on her own. The world was about to be destroyed, and the dragon tribe had also gone insane. They began to attack the ancient Dragon Empress with all their might. The ancient Dragon Empress was gradually beginning to crumble under the relentless barrage of attacks. Boom! The ancient Dragon Empress was attacked by Hades' uncanny darkness spell technique again. The power of the divine Tao suddenly appeared before striking her lower abdomen. She was severely wounded, and she tumbled to the ground again. A woman enshrouded in golden light descended from the sky. Judgment of battle intent. A powerful sealing power erupted from her palm before striking the ancient Dragon Empress' heart, causing the ground within a radius of over 50 kilometers to cave in. At the same time, the woman's other hand gripped the ancient Dragon Empress' neck in a death grip. Master! Mei Gui Evil Dragon roared upon seeing this as it tried to pounce toward its master. Before she could fly far, she was stopped by Poseidon. Luan Yu Evil Dragon was also being held back by Long Outyin and was unable to break free in a short time. Ha ha! I can slay the most powerful dragon before I die. Awesome! Dark King Hades' round body suddenly transformed into a sharp black sword that descended upon the ancient Dragon Empress' head. Heh! You want my battle intent to yield? A cold smile appeared on the ancient Dragon Empress' face as she sensed Athena's power. All of a sudden, an unyielding divine Tao light that threatened to crush the entire heavens and transcend beyond the entire world erupted forth. She was the great Empress who could even pierce through this world, so how could she succumb to Athena's judgment of battle will? Ah! Athena let loose a sharp cry, and the golden woman was blasted flying into the sky by the ancient dragon empress power of the divine Tao as blood gushed from her mouth. The ancient dragon empress struggled free from Athena's grasp and turned in the nick of time. Boom! The earth was instantly sliced in half. Hades' black sword did not strike the ancient dragon empress head. Instead, it struck the side of her body and only managed to sever one of her arms. Blood splattered through the air, and the ancient dragon empress' other arm had already sprang into action. She hammered the black sword beside her, almost snapping Hades' body in half. An earth-shattering boom erupted, and Hades' sword was knocked flying like a piece of scrap metal. The ancient dragon empress stood up again and looked down at the powerful beings on the battlefield with a disdainful expression. She had turned the tables in the blink of an eye, turning the tables on two return to void final stage mighty figures. No one knew when she was going to fall. Countless dragon tribe powerful beings were petrified upon seeing this. At a time like this, she was the absolute ruler of the battlefield. Right at this moment, a spatial rift suddenly appeared. Dark Knight Trident emerged from the spatial rift and turned to the ancient dragon empress. All of the evil dragon tribe combatants have been evacuated from this world. Please enter the passageway as well, Your Majesty and the 7 battle dragons. Dark Knight Trident bowed respectfully to the 3 first-rate mighty figures who had fought to the end. He had fled in panic from Enlin and Su Xiaolan, but his expression remained extremely calm in the face of the spell techniques that were raining down upon him. The 3 mighty figures retreated toward the circular spatial passageway upon hearing this. Athena's golden light lit up heaven and earth. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Ha ha. Fight with us until the end of this world. Poseidon also sprang into action. Let's die together. Hades sacrificed his own bloodline in a frenzy in preparation for his final attack. The ancient dragon empress knocked Long Outyen flying before standing alone in front of the spatial passageway to face the attacks of the 3 return to void final stage mighty figures. Let's go! The emperor shouted. The most powerful being of the evil dragon tribe decided to fight until the very end in order to give her tribe a path of retreat. Luan Yu Evil Dragon and Mei Gui Evil Dragon didn't hesitate and charged toward the spatial passageway. They knew that the faster they advanced, the faster the Empress would be forced to retreat. However, a sudden turn of events suddenly unfolded at this moment. The white vortex on the ground suddenly tremored violently before gradually turning from white to black. The spatial power within it was quickly weakening. This is... Luan Yu Evil Dragon's pupils contracted. We've wasted too much time, and we don't have enough power to open up the spatial passageway. It's already beginning to shrink and we can't use it anymore, Mei Gui Evil Dragon explained with a dark expression. Then what do we do? Luan Yu Evil Dragon was on the verge of a mental breakdown. They were only one step away. They were only one step away. It looked at the spatial passageway that was slowly turning from white to black, and it couldn't help but plunge headfirst into the passageway. There's one last way. The passageway is shrinking because the dragon tribe mighty figures don't have enough power to sacrifice their lives. Do you remember that black dragon from before? We can die just like it did before the passageway completely closes. Mei Gui Evil Dragon said. Life sacrifice? The evil dragons turned toward all of the mighty figures before them. In that instant, the Western Dragon Forest mighty figures, Long Outyen, and the others all unleashed defensive spell technique. All of the evil dragons. The spatial passageway was becoming darker and darker, and it was about to engulf the white light. There was no time to kill them. Master. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. The ancient dragon empress shuddered, and she immediately turned around. However, she was greeted by the sight of Dark Knight Trident plunging his double-headed spear into his heart. Blood splattered through the air, and the dragon tribe male's life was quickly taken. The ancient dragon empress' eyes widened as she looked at Dark Knight Trident's vibrant smile. Master, I'm sorry I wasn't able to grow into a man that you can be proud of. I don't have the ability to fight alongside you, and I can only look on as you destroy your own Tao and battle your enemies. But at the very least, I was able to protect you in the end. I've fulfilled my promise that day. However, this is the only thing I can do for you. Please forgive your useless disciple. Dark Knight Trident's body began to descend into the passageway between the two worlds. He looked at the pale woman, and he could still recall the vibrant smile on her face when he told her he was going to become stronger and protect her. She was so beautiful, it was a blessing to have such a good master. Dark Knight Trident disappeared into the passageway between the two worlds with a smile on his face. Chapter 1183. Dark Knight Trident fell into the passageway between the two worlds, and a dazzling white light erupted from the inky black hole once again. At the same time, pure spatial fluctuations began to appear. The spatial passageway between the two worlds was stabilized again. Neither the evil dragons nor the other two members of the dragon tribe had expected Dark Knight Trident to sacrifice himself in order to stabilize the passageway. Just as the evil dragons were still in a daze. Go! The ancient dragon empress roared again. Meigui evil dragon and Luan Yu evil dragon shuddered, and they came to their senses before flying toward the white halo without any hesitation. The ancient dragon empress also retreated. Don't even think about running away. Ha ha ha! After catching his breath, Hades transformed into countless tentacles that reached toward the ancient dragon empress. Stay with you? A smile appeared on the ancient dragon empress' face. There was a hint of ferocity in her vibrant smile. A yellow power of the divine Tao suddenly enshrouded heaven and earth, and all of Hades' tentacles were shredded. What? Hades hurtled back in retreat to evade the yellow power of the divine Tao. However, the ancient dragon empress appeared before Hades in the next instant with tears of blood flowing from her eyes. The red power of the divine Tao proliferated forth. Hades let loose a blood-curdling cry, and his ball-like body suddenly began to churn like boiling water as the power of darkness was seeped into his body. Hades struggled with all his might, but the ancient dragon empress held him in a death grip to prevent him from escaping. Bam! Hades suddenly exploded. His body exploded into a black rain of blood that rained down upon the earth. The Taichu continent's dark god Hades had been insta-killed by the ancient dragon empress just like that. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings stared blankly at this scene, and the atmosphere seemed to have congealed. Hades has once again proven that he's not a good teammate. He's clearly becoming a punching bag for the ancient dragon empress. Ao Xiaowu spoke in a cold voice. So Ao Xiaowu was unleashing her resentment again. The evil dragons had all retreated, and the ancient dragon empress was all alone, but no one dared to provoke her again. She looked at the shattered heaven and earth before slowly wiping away her tears of blood and making her way over to the circular passageway. The passageway between the two worlds emanated a pure white light that was extremely gentle and stable. Just like a gentle and timid child who always wanted to become strong and protect others. The Dragon Empress' smile was bright and beautiful, just like before. Disciple, thank you for everything you have done. Master has been protected by you this time. Very good, very good. Master is really proud of you. The ancient Dragon Empress spread open her arms and leaped down toward the white halo. It was as if they were swarming towards the boy in the tunnel. The last living being of the evil dragon race had also escaped from this world. In the destroyed world, there were no more sounds of battle. All of the powerful beings from the western dragon forest and the dragon court of the eastern seas stared at one another with wide eyes. The atmosphere was inexplicably awkward. The evil dragons have all fled. What should we do? A dragon asked. There are so many of us. Let's all think of a solution together and brainstorm. We'll definitely be able to find a way out of this predicament. A dragon clan powerhouse encouraged. That's right. The more dragons there are, the more powerful we are. Let's think of something together. Some of the Western Dragon Forest's members had already begun to gather their companions to discuss countermeasures. Of course, there were also many Dragon Clan powerful beings who turned toward Enlin and the others. Enlin and the others were among the most powerful beings on the battlefield, so they naturally became the people that all of the powerful beings chose to rely on. The world crumbled faster and faster, and the heavens shattered as chaotic energy erupted from the shattered space before sweeping through heaven and earth. Death began to descend. A mighty and irresistible power was stripping away the vitality of all living beings on this continent. There were no longer any flat areas on the ground. Instead, there were bottomless cracks everywhere, as if there were no end in sight. More and more black lines continued to spread. Soon, this entire continent was about to be completely annihilated into nothingness. Big sister, is there really no hope? The 10th Prince of the Dragon King, Ao Huiyu, stared at Ao Xiaowu with despair on his face, hoping for a different answer. There's really no way to save him. There's no way to save him. Find a more comfortable position to die. Ao Xiaowu pulled out her supreme-grade sponge bed and wrapped herself in it before closing her eyes in a peaceful manner. I heard that dying in sleep won't hurt too much, so don't disturb me. The most powerful being from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas had already given up. We can probably last for another 10 minutes, Xiao Zhe spoke with a disconsolate expression. Enlin and Su Xiaolan lay on the black brick, holding hands as they looked up at the crumbling heavens. Xiaolan, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking that death doesn't seem as scary as I imagined it to be if I die holding hands with you. What about you? What are you thinking about? I'm thinking that if we reincarnate we can still become Dao partners, right? A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she nodded. Even if you were a pig in your next life, I'll transform you into a pig immortal, and then we'll continue to love each other. Enlin, you're still being so mischievous at a time like this. You won't get a chance to be mischievous anymore. A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. After we die, you might be reincarnated on the Tai Chu continent, and I'll be reincarnated on Earth. If you have nothing to do, come to Earth more often. I probably won't have a chance to come to the Tai Chu continent, so you have to come and find me. Enlin felt like if he didn't have his system, he would probably live an ordinary life. The gap between the two of them would be like the gap between two worlds, the gap between an immortal and a mortal. Don't worry, I'll help you cultivate in your next life. Su Xiaolan held onto Enlin's hand tightly as she spoke with conviction. Enlin's heart jolted. Xiaolan, you're the best. The two of them chatted for a while before moving on to how they were going to meet in their next lives, what secret codes to use, and how they could go to the United University of Cultivation. Xiaoze was dumbfounded. Were they serious about what they were talking about? Why did it sound like it was real? Just as the two of them were happily making plans for their next lives, Enlin's storage ring suddenly began to tremor violently. The evil-slaying sword was trembling violently, conveying a message. I want to go out, I want to go out. Enlin pulled out his evil-slaying sword with a moved expression. Little Xie, I didn't think that you would reveal your true feelings in your final moments. To think that you would voluntarily come out and spend your final moments with me. How thoughtful of you. Reveal my true feelings, my A*S. I'm not going to waste my breath on you, hurry up. The evil-slaying sword pointed toward a certain direction in the sky with an urgent expression. Take me there. Enlin's brows furrowed. Can't you just die peacefully in your final moments? Why do you have to resort to some heaven-piercing trick? Is this your final obsession, little Xie? Enlin. The evil-slaying sword flared up with rage. Don't waste my time. If you want to live, then listen to me. I can mend the heavens. Enlin. Su Xiaolan. Chapter 1184. Little Xie, did I hear that right? You can mend the heavens? Enlin's eyes widened, and he wondered if he was hallucinating from his despair. Cut the crap. Activate your vital energy and stab me in that direction." The evil-slaying sword's urgent voice sounded. In the direction where the sword was pointing, nothingness and chaos had already corroded the entire space. Chaotic laws and violent energy were capable of annihilating all things. That was the place where the world was going to be destroyed, and it was the place where the energy was the most terrifying. F***ck, I'll do whatever you want to do. And Lin made up his mind. He was going to die anyway, so he might as well listen to the evil-slaying sword and give it a try. Xiaolan, let's not talk about the next life for now. Let's focus on this one and see how I save the world. That's what I was thinking too. Go for it. A smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face at the sight of Enlin's renewed battle intent. Enlin wielded the evil-slaying sword and flew into the sky. The inky black evil-slaying sword left a black trajectory in the air as an extremely sharp and all-engulfing black light radiated from the tip of the sword, as if it really was going to pierce through the heavens. Even though the heavens had already been shattered. Roar! Look, there's someone flying into the sky. Some of the dragon tribe powerful beings let loose cries of surprise upon seeing this. He's pointing his sword at the sky? He couldn't have gone mad, right? Is he trying to commit suicide like that? My God, isn't that Enlin? He's extremely powerful, but what is he trying to do? Some of the mighty figures from the dragon court of the eastern seas were perplexed. Sea god Poseidon chuckled coldly. Don't tell me this maniac is trying to slice through the destructive power in the sky and escape to the outside world? He's been forced into a corner, so he's just committing suicide. Enlin's actions had already attracted the attention of almost all of the dragon tribe powerful beings. After all, he was the only one who could commit such a suicidal act at a time like this. Master, Xiaozi stared at the figure that soared into the sky, and a sense of heroism seemed to ignite in his heart. Long Outyan looked at the man in the sky, who was fearless of the destructive power and was charging forward. He was also stunned and said in admiration, "His back is so charming." The chaotic astral wind began to attack. Enlin wielded his evil-slaying sword and sliced the gust of wind in half. A certain power that was imbued with the will of the world swept toward him, and a peculiar black light erupted from the evil-slaying sword, which enshrouded Enlin's body and kept the power at bay. No matter what kind of destructive power it was, it couldn't hurt Enlin at all. Thus, Enlin rose into the sky and pierced through all of the destructive power right before the astonished eyes of all of the dragon tribe powerful beings. Then, he stabbed his evil-slaying sword toward the point where the laws of the heavens were the most chaotic. Buzz, a wave swept across the world. The whole world seemed to have become quiet. The power of destruction, the collapsing sky and earth, the sweeping primal chaos astral winds, the chaotic laws, everything seemed to have been stopped. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes, at a loss for words. Everything had stopped, but the evil-slaying sword did not. Inky black energy began to spread through the entire sky, extending into infinity and beyond, as if it had replaced the heavens of this world. However, that wasn't actually the case. This energy wasn't something that could replace the heavens. It was more like a type of glue. It instantly seeped to the edge of the world, and all of the cracks in the heavens were filled by the black energy without exception. Then, the cracks were slowly pulled closer and sealed together. Finally, the entire world was restored to its original state. This restoration encompassed the entire world, and it began from the very edge before gradually closing in on the place where Enlin's evil-slaying sword was pointing. This sky. A dragon tribe mighty figure spoke in a trembling voice. It's healing. It's really healing. Some of the dragon tribe living beings were already shedding tears of excitement. Some of the dragon tribe living beings were still completely dumbstruck, while some of them had already burst into laughter or tears of excitement. He did it? To think that Enlin would be so powerful. The old dragon king Aomeng felt like he was still living in a dream. Everything was far too unimaginable. The sea god Poseidon was extremely embarrassed. He had just said that Enlil was going to die, but Enlil had just slapped him in the face with this scene. Not only him, but many other dragon tribe living beings were also extremely embarrassed. Of course, most of them were looking at Enlil with scorching light in their eyes. They were looking at the back of their savior, and they were all expressing their reverence and admiration. This was the case for both the Western Dragon Forest and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. Is he Enlil of the 4-9 Immortal Sect? What an extraordinary ability! He saved all of the living beings that we've been using for so long. In ancient times, Her Majesty Nuwa mended the heavens with a stone. Today, Enlil mended the heavens with his sword. He's a living god. I feel like Enlil is on par with Her Majesty Nuwa. Bulsh *T. Have you sensed his cultivation base yet? He's only at the soul formation final stage. Do you know what it means for a soul formation final stage cultivator to be able to mend the heavens? This means that Enlil's future accomplishments are going to surpass Nuwa's. That's right. Without a doubt. It's obvious. If Enlil were a ball, he would probably have been blown to smithereens by all of the dragons. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings began to discuss Enlil with excitement and reverence in their hearts. Some of the female dragons were even staring at Enlil with glazed eyes. All of them transformed into their human forms and stared at the mighty black figure with anticipation in their eyes. When the world was about to be destroyed and all of the dragons thought that they were going to perish for sure, a single person saved all of the dragons. Regardless of whether they were friends or foes, all of them would definitely develop special feelings toward him. What was an unparalleled hero? Enlil was an unparalleled hero. Su Xiaolan stared at the man who had mended the heavens with a prideful smile on her face, as if to say, "Look, Enlil is awesome, isn't he? He's my lover, my Dao partner." Ao Xiaowu opened her eyes and fell silent as she stared at Enlil, who was currently mending the heavens. Am I still not awake? Am I still in a dream? Slap. Ao Xiaowu gave herself a vicious slap on the face before accepting the fact that Enlil was mending the heavens. This world is so exciting. It's so wonderful. I'll see it in life. Ao Xiaowu's eyes lit up as she stared at Enlil with an intense gaze. Calm down, Xiaowu. Even though he has mended the heavens and is quite powerful, he actually has a lot of flaws. Ao Meng immediately offered a word of caution. He was extremely concerned about his daughter's reaction. He was afraid that his daughter would fall for Enlil just like all of the other female dragons around her, and she was unable to tear her eyes away from Enlil. That's right, if Ao Xiaowu were to fall for Enlil, it would spell disaster for the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. All of the powerful beings would swear oaths and fall for Enlil, and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas could even be renamed to the Dragon Pavilion of the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Thankfully, Ao Xiaowu didn't fall for Enlil. Instead, she closed her eyes and fell into deep thought. The mending of the heavens had reached its final stage. The inky black energy began to converge toward the tip of the evil-slaying sword, and the shattered heavens were completely repaired. The passageway between the two worlds had also disappeared due to the restoration of the barrier. All that was left were the invisible yet chaotic laws of heaven and earth. Just as Enlil thought that the evil-slaying sword would be able to straighten out the chaotic laws of heaven and earth, the evil-slaying sword slashed down upon the invisible laws of heaven and earth, shattering them before absorbing them. Enlil. Chapter 1185. The chaotic laws were instantly sliced apart by the evil-slaying sword. Enlil was given a massive fright. Little Xie, what are you doing? The existing laws have already been destroyed, so I'm taking this opportunity to cleanse all of the excess laws before absorbing them. The evil-slaying sword replied with an excited expression. Huh? Absorb? Enlil was at a complete loss, as if he was listening to a heavenly book. The evil-slaying sword didn't say anything. Instead, its blade fell upon heaven and earth, and an invisible blade projection sliced through the invisible shackles, as if something between heaven and earth had been sliced apart. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings turned their eyes toward the man standing at the very top of the starry sky. They could all sense that something between heaven and earth had been sliced apart by his sword, and there seemed to be some kind of power converging toward the sword in Enlin's hand in the form of a vortex. That's right, the black sword was absorbing something from this world. Ao Xiaowu was the most sensitive to the heavenly Tao, and she extended a hand to materialize a small green blade of grass. The blade of grass danced in the wind before quickly withering away. So that's how it is. Ao Xiaowu looked up at Enlin. All of the highly intelligent spirit evil dragons in this world have already been evacuated, so he can use this opportunity to sever the net of laws. Is he trying to slash this cursed world to a lower level while it's being repaired? Slash it to a lower level? What does that mean? Ao Qingyu asked with a surprised expression. There are different levels of worlds. Enlin is trying to slash a world that can give birth to highly intelligent spirit evil dragons to a lower level so that it can absorb the laws of destruction and become a world that can't give birth to highly intelligent spirit evil dragons. Ao Xiaowu explained. Gasp! Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. He can do something like that? What's going on? Ao Qingyu was astonished. A god of creation can also do this to a small world that they created. Perhaps this world was headed in the wrong direction to begin with, so he might as well start over. An intrigued expression appeared on Ao Xiaowu's face. The ancient Tai Chu dragon realm is not some small world, so he shouldn't have the ability to do this, but perhaps it's the will of the heavens. He grasped the opportunity very well. It seems like he's going against the heavens, but in fact, he's following the great Tao of heaven and earth. Xiao Tu also seemed to be enlightened. This is just like death and rebirth. Perhaps after this world was reborn, it wanted to abandon its original path of evolution. The old laws and systems were all discarded in order to be reborn, and reborn, as they spoke, a cool breeze blew through the world for millions of kilometers. New sprouts began to grow on the cracked ground, and life began to recover. Everything seemed to have returned to the beginning. This world didn't belong to the ancient Tai Chu realm. It was like a new, independent world. All the experts of the Dragon Clan looked at the changes in the world and seemed to have comprehended something. Enlin, who was in the starry sky, still maintained the posture of stabbing the sky with his sword. Everything calmed down. The mending of the heavens was over, but he couldn't retract his sword. It was as if the sword was a nail nailed into the sky. What's going on? Enlin muttered, feeling a little uneasy. However, he didn't dare to do anything else in fear of disturbing the evil-slaying sword and triggering other changes. That's right, he was very aware of this. Master really is very powerful. His mending of the heavens is simply incredible. Xiao Zhe's body trembled with excitement as tears welled up in his eyes. Ao Yuetang heaved a faint sigh. As expected, only the weak can land the killing blow. All powerful beings mend the heavens. She thought back to the words that she had said to Enlin after he had insta-killed 2 dragons with a single punch. Now that she thought back to it, she couldn't help but recall what she had said. Priceless advice. Our dragon court wants to oppose someone like him? Have we gone insane? No, we have to persuade father when we get back. Ao Huiyu exclaimed with shock on his face. Su Xiaolan repressed her laughter upon hearing this as she looked up at the man in the sky. Gradually, all of the Dragon Clan cultivators began to discuss spiritedly among themselves. All of you, look at his back. How imposing and reliable he is. He's so handsome. But why is he still maintaining this posture? Hasn't the mending of the heavens already concluded? There must be a deeper meaning behind his actions. It's not something that we can fathom. Perhaps he's battling some kind of unknown power, but we can't see it. Go, Senior Enlin. May Mr. Enlin defeat his powerful enemy as soon as possible. and Lin felt as if there were 10,000 mythological beasts stampeding over his heart as he listened to all of the cheers. He wasn't fighting. He just couldn't draw the evil-slaying sword. After what seemed like an eternity, all of a sudden, the evil-slaying sword began to glow with a scintillating light. Inky black specks of light began to materialize in the air as an aura of annihilation began to proliferate. And Lin's expression shifted, but he didn't even have a chance to do anything before something that left him completely dumbstruck took place. A woman in a black dress suddenly appeared before him. She appeared to be only 5 or 6 years of age, with a height of 130 centimeters. She had an extremely adorable and chubby face, and a pair of dead fish eyes that were cold and indifferent, as if she were bored to death and didn't care about anything. Her inky black hair was even longer than she was tall, and it covered her slender feet. The atmosphere around them suddenly fell silent. All of the dragons had stopped talking due to the appearance of the little girl. They stared blankly at the peculiar scene unfolding before them, and the air also became deathly silent. The little girl looked around and stretched lazily before speaking in a childish voice. "Ha ha, I'm finally out. I'm so happy." And Lin shuddered in fear as he pointed his evil-slaying sword at the woman before him. "Who are you?" The little girl cocked her head to the side as she looked at Lin. "Me? I'm the sword spirit of the evil-slaying sword." And Lin's pupils contracted, and his mouth gaped open in shock. "Nonsense. The sword spirit of my evil-slaying sword is clearly a beautiful woman with long legs and a slender waist. How could it be a chubby kid with short legs like you?" Reality was far too different from his imagination, and Lin was unable to accept this. The little girl. All of the dragons. Hee. The little girl's expression instantly darkened. She waved a hand, and the evil-slaying sword flew out of Lin's hand before landing in the little girl's hand. Lin's expression shifted drastically. "What are you doing?" Before he could finish his sentence, an inky black sword projection that seemed to be threatening to engulf the entire starry sky suddenly appeared. The sword projection extended for over 50 kilometers before engulfing Lin in the blink of an eye. Pwah! Lin threw up a large mouthful of blood as he plummeted from the sky. The little girl held her sword in front of her, and a fierce expression suddenly appeared in her dead fish eyes. "I've wanted to beat the crap out of you for a long time, but unfortunately, I didn't have the ability to do so. Now I finally have the chance." All of the dragons. Was this Senior Lin's sword spirit? How terrifying!